Classical era. First, let's start with the classical era of Call of Duty. Call of Duty didn't just appear out of thin air. It redefined how World War II shooters worked. Released in 2003 by Infinity Ward, the original game wasn't trying to be flashy or cinematic like the later titles. It was gritty, grounded, and very early 2000s. This was back when World War II media was the trend. Every other movie, show, and game was obsessed with the era. COD came right into that wave and said, yeah, but what if we made it chaotic as hell? The campaign was split between the Americans, the British, and the Soviets, a concept that made it feel massive for its time. You weren't just playing as one guy, you were bouncing around the front lines of an entire world war. That design decision made the series stand out immediately. It wasn't about being a superhero soldier, it was about being one cog in a war machine. It did technically have multiplayer, but let's be honest, nobody's booting this up in 2025 for some late-night lobbies. Still, this game laid the foundation for everything that came after. The atmosphere, the sound design, and even the pacing of combat were groundbreaking for 2003. Medal of Honor might have been the top dog at the time, but Call of Duty looked at it, scoffed, and said, we can do it better. And they did. It set the tone for an entire franchise that would go on to dominate the FPS world for the next 2 decades. It's primitive, sure, but it's where the legacy began. Call of Duty. United Offensive is technically an expansion pack, but calling it that undersells how much it actually added. Released in 2004 and developed by Grey Matter Interactive, this wasn't just more missions, it was practically a second game disguised as DLC. Back when expansions actually meant something and didn't just give you a gold camo and a recycled gun, critics and fans loved it. It wasn't just a bonus disc, it was a declaration that Call of Duty wasn't a one-hit wonder. This expansion solidified the franchise's place in the FPS scene. And it made sure everyone knew Infinity Ward and its partners weren't just chasing trends, they were setting them. United Offensive was the missing link between the old-school wargame formula and the future of COD chaos. It's clunky, sure, but it's also the first time the series started to feel like something bigger than just another World War II shooter. Call of Duty, Finest Hour, 2004. Call of Duty. Finest Hour is what happens when a franchise that started on PC decides to test the console waters, nearly drowns in the controller clunk. Released in 2004 and developed by Spark Unlimited, this was the first COD made specifically for consoles. PlayStation 2, Xbox, and yes, even the Nintendo GameCube. That's right, the GameCube got a Call of Duty before it ever got a proper online shooter. Wild Times. Finest Hour did something important. It proved that Call of Duty could survive outside of PCs. This was the franchise's first real step into the console market, and despite the clunkiness, it worked. The visuals were solid for the time, the sound design had real punch, and the atmosphere was surprisingly immersive once you stopped fighting the controls. It wasn't perfect, but it was crucial. Finest Hour planted the flag. Consoles were the future of Call of Duty. It's weird, it's janky, and it definitely hasn't aged gracefully, but it marked the beginning of COD's console empire. Without this one, we probably don't get the explosive success of COD 2 or any of the games that followed. So yeah, respect where it's due. Call of Duty 2 was the moment the series went from that good World War II shooter to a full-blown phenomenon. Released in 2005 and developed by Infinity Ward, it was the first KOD to launch on the Xbox 360, which meant this wasn't just another wargame. It was the next-gen wargame, and it looked incredible for its time. Smoke effects, lighting, cinematic set pieces, everything just felt bigger, cleaner, and louder. It was like the original Call of Duty, but with the training wheels ripped off. Just like before, the campaign split between 3 allied perspectives: the Americans, the British, and the Soviets. Gameplay-wise, it was also the game that defined the COD formula for the next 2 decades. Call of Duty 2 introduced health regeneration. No more hunting for medkits like a rat in a trench. Take cover, catch your breath, and jump right back into the chaos. It was a simple system, but it changed everything. Sprinting was gone after United Offensive, but healing on cover became the new standard for the series, and it's still here today. Then there's the multiplayer, the real magic trick. Call of Duty 2's multiplayer wasn't some throwaway side mode. It was the start of something massive. The map design, the gunplay, and the pacing all clicked together perfectly. It felt like the modern COD experience for the first time. Sure, there were no kill streaks or unlocks yet, but the foundation was solid. Quick respawns, small maps, and non-stop action. Even today, there are still players hopping onto the servers, especially on PC and 360. It's not exactly bustling, but the fact that people still boot up a 2005 WBOY 2 shooter says everything about its staying power. Call of Duty 2 wasn't just a sequel, it was a statement. The series wasn't going anywhere. It was evolving and fast. This was where the Call of Duty feel was born, and every title since Good or Bad owes something to this game. It's the first one that really felt like Call of Duty. Call of Duty 2, Big Red One, 2005. Most people think Treyarch's first Call of Duty was World at War or maybe Call of Duty 3. Nope, their first rodeo was Call of Duty 2, Big Red One, released in 2005. And this one's a weird but fascinating part of the franchise's DNA. It's technically a spin-off of Call of Duty 2, built for the last-gen consoles like the PS2, Xbox, and GameCube, because not everyone had jumped to the shiny new Xbox 360 yet, so while COD 2 was flexing next-gen graphics and regenerating health, Treyarch was making sure the old consoles still had something to fight over. Instead of jumping between 3 armies like every COD up to that point, Big Red One focused on one squad, the US Army's 1st Infantry Division. Gameplay-wise, Big Red One wasn't rewriting the rulebook. It was just Call of Duty 2 scaled down for weaker hardware. The visuals took a hit, the missions were a bit more linear, and the pacing was slower. But honestly, it worked. For 2005, this was one of the best-looking and most cinematic shooters you could play on a PS2. Fans who grew up with it remember it fondly, and for good reason. It was the first Treyarch COD, the last COD to hit the GameCube, and a sneak peek into the studio that would later give us Black Ops and World at War. It may not be flashy or widely remembered, but Big Red 1 proved Treyarch could handle the franchise, and in hindsight, it was the start of one of the most important partnerships in COD history. Call of Duty 3 is Treyarch's first mainline entry in the series, and it's a bit of a misunderstood beast. Released in 2006, it came right after Big Red 1 and was the first COD that didn't launch on PC, which already made some fans raise an eyebrow. This one was console only, hitting PS2, PS3, Xbox, and Xbox 360. No PC, no fancy mods, just you, your controller, and a whole lot of chaos in Normandy. The campaign focuses on the Normandy breakout, following the Allied push through France. It puts you in the boots of American, British, Canadian, and Polish soldiers, a mix that kept the traditional multiple perspectives style from the earlier games. This game showed that Treyarch wasn't just a side studio, they could go toe-to-toe with Infinity Ward. It's rough, it's janky, and it's far from perfect. But Call of Duty 3 was Treyarch's first major swing at the big leagues. And while it didn't hit a home run, it definitely earned them a permanent seat at the table. Call of Duty, Roads to Victory, 2007. If there's one Call of Duty most players have never touched, it's Roads to Victory. Released in 2007 exclusively for the PlayStation Portable, this was the series' first handheld outing. Let's just say it's more of a tech experiment than a full-on Call of Duty experience. Developed specifically for the PSP, Roads to Victory wasn't a port, but a completely standalone entry. The campaign featured 3 different perspectives: the Americans, the British, and the Canadians, covering iconic W4 moments like Operation Market Garden. On paper, it sounds ambitious. In practice, it's a clunky handheld shooter with some of the strangest aim assist you'll ever see. The controls were a nightmare. Aiming with the PSP's single analog nub felt like trying to steer a tank with a D-pad, and without the hyper-aggressive aim assist system, the game would have been unplayable. But somehow they made it kind of work. And weirdly enough, Roads to Victory even had multiplayer, supporting up to 6 players via ad hoc connection. That's right, portable multiplayer COD in 2007. Sure, the game hasn't aged well, and most people have forgotten it even exists, but it laid the groundwork for later handheld COD projects like Black Ops, Declassified, and the eventual mobile games. It was awkward, limited, and kind of hilarious to play, but it proved one thing: Activision was ready to put Call of Duty anywhere they could fit it, even if it meant squishing it into a tiny PSP screen. Golden era now for the golden era of COD Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare 2007. This is the moment the series changed forever. Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare wasn't just a new entry, it was a complete revolution. Released in 2007 by Infinity Ward, it dragged the franchise out of the trenches of WO2 and into the modern day, kicking and screaming. Gone were the bolt actions and M1 Garands, now it was M4s, UAVs, and nukes. Whether you were running through the chaos of the Middle East as the US Marines or sneaking through Chernobyl as the British SAS, the campaign tied it all together into one tightly woven story. Custom loadouts, level progression, kill streaks. It's hard to describe how groundbreaking it was back then because it all feels normal now, but in 2007, this was mind-blowing. Getting a UAV at 3 kills, an airstrike at 5, and a helicopter at 7 made every life feel important. It created that feedback loop that would hook millions for years. It defined modern multiplayer gaming as we know it. Even now, after endless remakes and nostalgia bait reboots, the original still holds a special kind of magic. It's where everything started to click, where COD became more than a shooter. It became the shooter. Call of Duty, World at War, 2008. Just a year after Modern Warfare blew everyone's minds, Treyarch dragged us right back to World War II, and somehow made it even more brutal. Call of Duty. World at War dropped in 2008, and if Modern Warfare was cinematic and precise, World at War was pure chaos and blood. This wasn't the romanticized Greatest Generation kind of war game. This was horror. Limbs flying off, soldiers screaming, flamethrowers lighting up bunkers. It's the most gruesome and grounded WW2 COD ever made. The campaign split between 2 fronts, the Pacific Theater against the Japanese, and the Eastern Front with the Soviets against the Germans. Multiplayer, meanwhile, took the Modern Warfare framework and re-skinned it for WWO2. Same 3 kill streaks, recon plane, artillery, dogs, same progression system, but with gritty weapons and massive maps with tanks. It was familiar, but meaner, and it worked. But the real legacy here was zombies. What started as a bonus mode became a cultural phenomenon. World at War wasn't just a return to WW2, it was Treyarch finding its voice. Darker, gorier, and somehow more fun than it had any right to be. Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 2, 2009. If Modern Warfare defined the franchise, Modern Warfare 2 made it a global phenomenon. It released in 2009, this was COD's first true blockbuster and a cultural event. This wasn't just a video game release, it was the event of the year. Modern Warfare 2 took everything great about COD 4 and cranked it up to 11. Customizable kill streaks, pro perks, and some of the most broken setups ever put in a shooter. One-man army, danger close. Noob tubes, you know the pain. But that chaos was what made it so good. The maps were iconic. Terminal, high-rise, rust all burned into gaming history. It was unbalanced, it was ridiculous, and it was glorious. No one cared about balance, they cared about fun. And for the co-op players, Spec Ops mode was a nice touch. Bite-sized missions, perfect for 2 players, from stealth to full-on explosions. It wasn't zombies, but it had its own charm. Modern Warfare 2 wasn't just a game, it was a cultural moment, the peak of the COD craze. Everyone was talking about it. playing it, quoting it. It defined an era, and it's the reason Call of Duty became the juggernaut it still is today. Call of Duty Black Ops is where Treyarch stopped being the other studio and became a powerhouse. Released in 2010, this game didn't just continue the franchise, it reinvented it. This was espionage, Cold War paranoia, and brainwashing all wrapped into one tightly wound campaign that's still one of the best in series history. It introduced COD points, not the microtransaction kind, but an in-game currency you earned from matches and used to buy weapons, attachments, and even face paints. And then there were wager matches, where you could literally gamble your earnings in modes like Gun Game and One in the Chamber. It was chaotic, hilarious, and addictive. This was also the first game to add custom emblems, and let's be honest, that feature alone is responsible for half the inappropriate art on Xbox Live. It was pure freedom. And of course, zombies. Black Ops 1 cemented it as a core mode. It took the experimental fun of World at War and turned it into a full-blown mythology. The Easter eggs, the wonder weapons, the crew, it all started here. For a lot of players, Black Ops was their first Call of Duty, and that nostalgia still hits hard. It was dark, stylish, and unforgettable. Treyarch had officially found its identity, and the bar was set sky high. Silver era now. From the high of the golden era of COD, we move on to the Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 3, 2011. The end of an era, and what an ending it was. Modern Warfare 3 dropped in 2011 as the explosive finale to the original trilogy. Co-developed by Infinity Ward and Sledgehammer Games, it picked up right where MW2 left off, throwing you headfirst into all-out global warfare. The campaign is pure blockbuster energy. New York under siege, Europe in flames, and Task Force 141 chasing Makarov across continents. It's loud, cinematic, and unapologetically over the top. Multiplayer built on MW2's formula, but with more polish and balance. Gone were the game-breaking noob-tube setups. This was tighter, faster, and more refined. The return of Spec Ops was nice, but the real highlight was survival mode. Two-player chaos against endless waves of enemies, buy stations, and attack dogs with C4 strapped to them. It was ridiculous, but in the best way possible. Modern Warfare 3 wasn't trying to reinvent the wheel. It was the end of an era, and it knew it. It took everything great about COD's golden age and wrapped it up with a bow. The last Infinity Ward classic before the series took a sharp turn. Call of Duty Black Ops Declassified 2012. And then this happened, Black Ops Declassified, the forgotten child of the series. Released in 2012 for the PlayStation Vita, this was Sony's desperate attempt to bring real Call of Duty to handheld. Spoiler alert, it didn't work. This thing was a stripped-down, bare-minimum version of Black Ops. The campaign wasn't a story, it was just a bunch of disconnected missions you could beat in a few minutes. To its credit, Declassified did try to offer everything. Campaign, Hostiles mode, multiplayer. But the execution was rough. It's one of those cool idea, bad delivery games, and honestly, it's more of a trivia fact now than a real entry. Still, it's an interesting relic. Proof that Activision would literally try to put Call of Duty on anything with a screen. Call of Duty Black Ops 2, 2012. Black Ops 2 hit in 2012 and changed everything again. The campaign, the multiplayer, the zombies, all of it went bigger, smarter, and way more ambitious. For the first time, COD had branching storylines. Your choices actually mattered. Depending on the ending, could completely change. For COD, that was groundbreaking. Then there were the Strikeforce missions. Half RTS, half chaos. Not the most polished thing ever, but at least they tried something new. Multiplayer was also super fun. This was the era of trick-shotting, YouTube montages, and absolute addiction. The Pick-10 system let you build your class however you wanted, giving you full freedom, and the new score streak system rewarded playing the objective instead of just camping for kills. Add some of the best maps in franchise history: Raid, Standoff, Hijacked, and you've got perfection. And then there's zombies. Black Ops 2 turned it into a full cinematic universe. Transit, Mob of the Dead, Buried, Origins. Each map was a world of its own. Easter eggs, characters, massive stories. It was the height of Treyarch's creativity. Even the smaller modes like Grief and Turned added variety. Black Ops 2 wasn't just good, it was lightning in a bottle. The perfect blend of innovation, nostalgia, and chaos. Ask anyone what their favorite COD is, and 9 times out of 10, this is the one. It's the game that defined a generation. Loot box era. Finally, we come to bane of modern Call of Duty loot boxes Call of Duty, Ghosts 2013. After the highs of Black Ops 2, Call of Duty. Ghosts hit in 2013 like a wet paper bag. The hype was unreal. The execution wasn't. On paper, it sounded great. A new story, a new engine, new-gen hardware. In reality, it was a confused mess. Multiplayer was worse. The maps were way too big for COD's traditional pacing. The spawns were all over the place, and the new perks and killstreak systems fell off. Satcoms replaced UAVs, IEDs replaced claymores, and everyone camped like their lives depended on it. The time to kill was lightning fast, which only made it worse. And then there was Extinction Mode, COD's first attempt to replace zombies with alien horde missions. It sounded cool, but it got old fast. You protected a drill, fought the same bugs, and couldn't even pause offline. It was ambitious, but it lacked the fun or depth that Treyarch brought to their co-op modes. Ghosts isn't the worst COD ever made, but it's definitely the first major misstep after years of dominance. It sold like crazy because of brand momentum, but the cracks were showing. COD wasn't invincible anymore, and Ghosts proved it. Jetpack era. Now, we move on to the future with Call of Duty. Advanced Warfare 2014. By 2014, the franchise needed a reboot, and Advanced Warfare was that reboot. Sledgehammer Games stepped up to the plate with their first solo COD entry, and they went full sci-fi. Exosuits, drones, laser rifles. This was Call of Duty if Michael Bay directed Titanfall. Gameplay, though, was a full-on overhaul. The exosuit introduced double jumps, boosts, and dodges total vertical chaos. It completely changed how COD felt. Traditional boots on ground gameplay was gone. This was faster, twitchier, and 10 times more chaotic. For better or worse, it worked. Multiplayer was divisive, but innovative. The boost mechanics made gunfights wild and maps were designed around vertical movement. It was a skill gap nightmare for casuals and heaven for sweats. Pick 13 replaced Pick 10, giving even more customization, and supply drops introduced random loot, a feature that would haunt the franchise for years. Then there was Exozombies, Treyarch's concept with Sledgehammer's twist. It had its fans, but it never hit the same level. The novelty was there, but the heart wasn't. Still, Advanced Warfare deserves credit. It broke the mold. It proved COD could evolve, even if not everyone liked the direction. It was loud, flashy, and ridiculous, but at least it was different. Call of Duty, Black Ops 3, 2015. If Advanced Warfare flirted with the future, Black Ops 3 went on a full honeymoon with it. Released in 2015, this was Treyarch's jump into full sci-fi territory: cybernetic soldiers, brain chips, and combat implants. It's as absurd as it sounds, but man, it's entertaining. Zombies in Black Ops 3 was peak insanity. It wasn't just a mode anymore, it was an institution. It was pure Treyarch genius, and it's still one of the most beloved zombies experiences ever made. Multiplayer was the most refined jetpack era yet. Boost slides, wall running, specialist characters with unique abilities. It felt fast and fluid. The competitive scene loved it. Casual players either adored it or rage quit after one wall run death. The customization was deep, and the weapon balance surprisingly wasn't terrible. The only problem was supply drops. The microtransactions hit full swing here, locking some of the best weapons behind RNG loot boxes. It was peak 2010s monetization greed, but the game itself was so good, most people tolerated it. Black Ops 3 marked the peak of futuristic COD. It was stylish, over the top, and unapologetically weird, and for many fans. It was the last truly great COD before the franchise started losing itself. Call of Duty, Infinite Warfare, 2016. If Black Ops 3 was futuristic, Infinite Warfare said, "You thought that was the future?" Hold my Zero Gravity beer. Released in 2016 by Infinity Ward, this game officially sent Call of Duty into space. Literally. Jetpacks, spaceships, laser guns, the whole 9 yards. COD was no longer just modern or near future, it was interplanetary warfare. And to be fair, the campaign is criminally underrated. But jetpack fatigue had hit its peak. People wanted boots on the ground, not moon boots in orbit. The infamous reveal trailer became the most disliked gaming trailer in YouTube history, which tells you all you need to know. The multiplayer didn't help. It felt like Black Ops 3 reskinned the same boost jumps, same specialists, same chaos, but somehow less fun. The time to kill was brutal, and the maps felt soulless. The one saving grace. The gunplay was buttery smooth, and weapon balancing was solid, but it wasn't enough. Zombies, though, that was a surprise hit. Zombies in Spaceland was an 80s neon fever dream, complete with David Hasselhoff as a DJ. It was goofy and self-aware in the best way. Later maps like Rave in the Redwoods and Attack of the Radioactive Thing leaned even harder into absurdity, making it one of the most unique zombies experiences ever. In hindsight, Infinite Warfare was a victim of timing. It wasn't a bad game. It was just released when everyone wanted the exact opposite. If it came out a few years earlier or later, people might have appreciated it more. But in 2016, it was the face of everything fans hated about the soft reboot era. After the hate of the jetpacks Call of Duty comes to a soft reboot Call of Duty, WOT 2017. After 3 years of jetpacks and laser rifles, Call of Duty came crashing back down to earth literally. Released in 2017 by Sledgehammer Games, this was marketed as a return to roots. No more exosuits, no more wall running, no more space nonsense, just boots on the ground and bullets in the mud. And honestly, it worked. Gameplay-wise, Sledgehammer nailed the tone. Slower pacing, more grounded combat, and a focus on squad mechanics. You didn't regenerate health automatically this time. Instead, you relied on your teammates for ammo, medkits, and support. It gave the campaign a subtle layer of tension missing from previous entries. Multiplayer, however, was a mixed bag. It looked great and felt solid, but it also introduced divisions, a class system that limited how you built your loadouts. It was meant to add structure, but instead boxed players in. Later updates fixed it, but the damage was done. Then came Headquarters, a social hub where you could open loot boxes in front of other players like it was Christmas morning. It was goofy, unnecessary, and perfectly emblematic of Activision's obsession with monetization at the time. Zombies made a return too darker, creepier, and way more horror-focused. The Final Reich was a standout map with a mix of puzzles and gore straight out of a nightmare. Grau didn't revolutionize the franchise, but it did what it needed to do. Remind everyone why they fell in love with COD in the first place. After years of high-tech chaos, this was a welcome reset. Call of Duty, Black Ops 4, 2018. Black Ops 4 is the game that broke tradition for better or worse. Released in 2018, Treyarch decided that campaigns were overrated. No single-player story this time, just multiplayer, zombies, and a shiny new Battle Royale mode. It was bold, controversial, and completely divisive. The campaign's absence hit hard, but credit where it's due. Black Ops 4's multiplayer was tight. The time to kill was slower, healing became manual, and specialists added tactical depth. It was more team-based and methodical than the twitchy chaos of previous entries. Weapon handling was crisp, map design was strong, and the gunfights actually rewarded awareness instead of pure reflexes. Then came Blackout, Call of Duty's first crack at the Battle Royale craze. And honestly, it was good. Massive map, classic locations from past games, helicopters, zombies, it was everything fans wanted from a COD BR. It just couldn't compete with Fortnite or PUBG's cultural chokehold. Still, for a first attempt, Blackout walked so Warzone could later sprint. Zombies, on the other hand, was ambitious but messy. It launched with 4 full maps: 9, Voyage of Despair, Blood of the Dead, and Classified. But the storytelling was so bloated and confusing that even hardcore fans needed a flowchart. It was Treyarch trying to do too much at once. Black Ops 4 was experimental, brave, and undeniably flawed. It marked the beginning of COD's shift toward live service, where updates and seasonal events mattered more than the base game. Some loved it, others hated it, but it paved the way for everything that came next. Full reboot era. After that soft reboot, COD comes to a full reboot Call of Duty. Modern Warfare, 2019. After years of sci-fi suits and battle royale hype, Infinity Ward returned with Modern Warfare 2019, a full reboot of the franchise's most iconic subseries. This wasn't a sequel, it was a rebirth from the opening mission. Modern Warfare 2019 hits different. It's gritty, grounded, and cinematic in a way no COD had been for years. New engine, new lighting, new sound, it felt real. Even the animations had weight. Shooting someone in this game doesn't feel like arcade chaos, it feels visceral. Multiplayer, meanwhile, was a fresh start. Slower pacing, realistic map design, and a more tactical feel. Gone were the 3-lane arenas. Now it was doors, angles, and campers in every window. Some loved it, others despised it, but you can't deny it changed the rhythm of COD. Gunsmith also debuted here, letting players customize weapons down to the screw. It was deep, addictive, and instantly iconic. Then came Warzone in 2020, a free-to-play battle royale built on Modern Warfare's engine. Massive map, seamless gunplay, and that legendary Gulag system. It was the COD formula perfected for the BR genre. Within months, Warzone became a cultural phenomenon, bringing millions of players who'd never even touched COD before. Modern Warfare 2019 was more than a reboot. It was a statement, a reminder that COD could still be cinematic, innovative, and brutally realistic all at once. It revitalized the franchise and set the tone for the next generation of games. Call of Duty, Black Ops Cold War. After the gritty realism of Modern Warfare, 2019, Black Ops Cold War was a return to Treyarch's brand of stylish espionage and paranoia. The coolest part was choice. You could pick dialogue options, customize Bell's background, and even choose between multiple endings. A first for COD since Black Ops 2. That replayability made it stand out. Multiplayer, though, was a mixed experience. It looked and played great on paper, but constant integration with Warzone made it feel inconsistent. Still, Cold War had some banger maps. Moscow, Satellite, Raid, pure nostalgia fuel. The gunplay was smoother than Black Ops 4, and the progression system tied neatly into the cross-game ecosystem. Zombies came roaring back, a fresh universe with new characters, lore, and power-ups. Treyarch managed to modernize zombies without losing its soul, and it worked. Cold War wasn't revolutionary, but it was reliable. It brought Treyarch's narrative edge back into focus, leaned into player choice, and served as a solid middle ground between the realism of Modern Warfare and the chaos of Black Ops. It wasn't perfect, but it was Treyarch being Treyarch. Smart, stylish, and slightly insane. Call of Duty, Vanguard, 2021. Vanguard is the Call of Duty that tried to go back to what we out to use one more time. Visually, it was impressive. The new engine carried over from Modern Warfare 2019 made everything look cinematic and polished. The gunplay was smooth as butter, but none of it mattered when the missions felt formulaic and the stakes non-existent. It was W1T on autopilot. Multiplayer had potential, but was buried under messy design. The new combat pacing system tried to let players choose between tactical, assault, and blitz lobbies. Basically, how chaotic you wanted your match to be. It was an interesting idea, but the map balance and spawn logic made it a nightmare. The time to kill was way too fast, and the visibility was terrible. You either melted enemies instantly or died before seeing them. Zombies, handled by Treyarch again, was the biggest letdown. Instead of the traditional round-based mode, Vanguard launched with Dare Anfang, a weird objective-based system that stripped away everything people loved about zombies. No rounds, no mystery, no fun. It felt like a rushed experiment that no one asked for. Vanguard wasn't offensively bad, it was just forgettable. It came and went with little impact, sandwiched between two far more influential COD titles. It tried to honor the franchise's roots, but instead reminded everyone why we'd moved on. Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 2022, was the sequel to the 2019 reboot, which confused half the internet, and probably the marketing department too. Released by Infinity Ward, it carried massive expectations. Modern Warfare 2019 revived the franchise. The gunplay was crisp. The Gunsmith 2.0 system added even deeper customization, and maps like Farm 18 and Crown Raceway became instant favorites. It also introduced DMZ, a new extraction-style mode blending PvP and PvE, somewhere between Warzone and Escape from Tarkov. It was experimental, but surprisingly addicting. Then came Warzone 2.0, bigger, cleaner, more tactical. But it lost some of the chaos and fun that made the original Warzone so iconic. Slower pacing, armor plates, proximity chat. It had potential, but felt sanitized. Infinity Ward tried to refine the formula when fans just wanted to blow each other up in Verdansk again. Modern Warfare The Season 2, 2022, looked and played like a masterpiece, but it was also the start of COD's live service fatigue. Tons of updates, weapon integrations, and constant crossovers turned it into content overload. Still, it was a solid continuation that proved the reboot timeline had real staying power. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. By 2023, the cracks were starting to show. Modern Warfare 3, developed primarily by Sledgehammer Games. It was supposed to be an expansion to MW2, but Activision turned it into a full-priced game, and the community noticed. Multiplayer, on the other hand, was nostalgia overload. Every launch map was a remastered version of the originals from Modern Warfare 2, 2009. The movement was faster, the gunplay tighter, and the time to kill brutal. It felt good, but it also felt recycled. Zombies made its first appearance in a Modern Warfare title, an open-world version of the mode set in Warzone's large maps. It was interesting, but it lacked the soul and progression that made traditional zombies great. You looted, fought waves, and extracted fun in short bursts, but empty long-term. Modern Warfare 3, 2023 wasn't a complete disaster, but it was undeniably rushed. It played fine, looked fine, but it didn't feel like a new game. Fans saw through the rebranding, calling it MW.5, and they weren't wrong. It was the definition of safe. Mechanically sound, but creatively empty. Still, it sold millions. Because it's Call of Duty. Call of Duty Black Ops 6, 2024. And that brings us to Call of Duty Black Ops 6. Released in 2024, this game is Treyarch's grand return, and their attempt to remind everyone what a Black Ops campaign actually feels like. Set in the early 1990s, right after the Cold War collapses, it dives into a world of paranoia, espionage, and shifting allegiances. It's pure Black Ops, full of conspiracies, moral ambiguity, and brain-melting plot twists. Gameplay-wise, Black Ops 6 hits the reset button again. Full movement freedom. Dive, sprint, and slide, cancel to your heart's content. No exosuits, no wall runs, no gimmicks. Just raw, fluid combat. It's fast, responsive, and it feels like old-school KOD refined for modern hardware. Multiplayer embraces the 1990s setting while keeping modern sensibilities. Think retro weapons, but with today's gunsmith flexibility. The map design strikes a balance between Treyarch's chaotic flow and Infinity Ward's grounded realism. A rare sweet spot. And yes, Zombies is back in full force. Round-based and unapologetically classic. Liberty Falls and Terminus hit hard with that nostalgic energy. A true revival of what fans have been begging for. Black Ops 6 feels like closure. The end of the reboot confusion and the start of a clear direction again. Call of Duty Black Ops 7, 2025. Treyarch's Call of Duty Black Ops 7 is scheduled for release November 14th, 2025. The game was announced June 8, 2025 and ran a public beta, Early Access OCT 2.5, Open Beta OC 5.9. Winslow Accord, the Blue Wall of Order. The Winslow Accord functions as the primary superbloc in the 2060s. It inherits the mantle of earlier transatlantic alliances and broadens it to manage a harsher world. Its purpose is administrative as much as military. Shipping routes must be secured through longer storm seasons. City-states must be held together under the strain of migration and scarcity. A credible deterrent must be projected against rival coalitions that apply pressure at choke points. The Accord's strength lies in logistics and integration. Augmented infantry operate through a direct neural interface that binds squads to battlefield intelligence. Reconnaissance, targeting, and telemetry reach the operator with the immediacy of sensation. The opening operation in Black Ops demonstrates the doctrine with combined arms and rapid insertion at an Ethiopian airfield. Later, Cairo becomes a firefight of rooftops and alleys where Accord air assets and armor coordinate with local units to extract non-combatants while closing avenues of approach. The Alliance appears confident yet carries a hidden attrition problem. Street-level victories look decisive until the story reveals that the decisive ground is a place no aircraft can patrol and no vehicle can garrison. The decisive ground is the space where memory is stored. Black Cyber OPAS Division. Augmented Shadows. Inside the Winslow Accord sits the Black Cyber Ops Division under Special Operations Command Winslow Accord. This is the clandestine arm that defines the campaign perspective. Operators in this unit combine stealth, precision, and neural augmentation. Their value is not only in silent movement and accurate fire, but in operating where alliances blur and legal authority breaks down. The direct neural interface provides instant overlays, pattern predictions, and synchronized strikes. It also creates a shared substrate where compromised code can travel. New World frames the promise of the system as instruction. In Darkness and Provocation reveal the cost when missions thread through corporate ecosystems that have buried their own secrets. Hippo Center turns the team into investigators of a disaster that preserved more than it destroyed. Vengeance and Rise and Fall trace the human consequences as friends turn into carriers for a software contagion that speaks in the language of comfort. Demon Within exposes how the interface confuses memory and present tense. Life, the final mission, brings the unit to Zurich, where the war collapses into a question. If the battle space resides in the mind, what does victory mean when the enemy writes in the first person? Common Defense Pact, the red counterweight. The Common Defense Pact provides the Accord with an equal and opposite structure. It is less a single state than a coordination of governments that share an interest in reducing Accord influence and in redirecting flows of power and goods. Its strategy emphasizes deniability and flexibility. Where the Accord seeks to preserve frameworks, the Pact exploits gaps. The Pact funds proxies. The Pact cultivates non-state partners who can advance its objectives without formal signatures. Multiplayer reduces the rivalry to a clear schema, where Black Ops represents the Accord, and CDP stands as the red team. The campaign complicates that picture. The pact appears through supply routes, intelligence cutouts, and diplomatic cover that allows regional forces to escalate without the burden of public commitment. The pact's presence makes sense of the map. A coalition near the Nile can threaten global shipping. A syndicate in Singapore can blur the line between government and private order. A European financial center can guard itself with municipal soldiers. The pact does not need to plant a flag on every hill. It needs to make the Accord spend time, equipment, and credibility in places where control erodes regardless. Nile River Coalition, Desert Theater, Heavyweights. The Nile River Coalition is a regional power that turns geography into leverage. It anchors the campaign's opening and recurs as the story expands. The airfield assault in Black Ops introduces a conventional army that has adapted to a drone-saturated theater. Air defenses cover hardened positions. Infantry layers shield vehicle routes. The coalition's Cairo battles present urban warfare where ambushes and anti-armor teams extract a cost from every block reclaimed. Control over bridges, port facilities, and arterial roads allows the coalition to throttle resupply. The coalition's alignment with the pact's interests demonstrates how local force can be scaled into international influence. The coalition is not treated as a disposable antagonist. It serves as a case study for how middle powers decide outcomes beyond their borders in a world where superblocks prefer to avoid open confrontation. Egyptian Army. Local sovereignty under siege. The Egyptian army appears as a sovereign partner rather than a subordinate. Its soldiers fight on streets where they live. They coordinate with Accord units while guarding civilians. The Cairo sequence presents checkpoints, barricades, and evacuation corridors that replace parade ground formations. Officers must balance military necessity with civil obligation while the city they protect continues to function. The army lacks the operator's neural interface but holds an advantage that cannot be installed. It knows the shape of its neighborhoods and the timing of their lives. The more the army holds and governs, the less space remains for external blocks or criminal syndicates. These chapters feel like the defense of a living city rather than an abstraction made of geometry and cover. 54 Immortals, Power in the Quarantine. Singapore's Ark belongs to the 54 Immortals, an organized crime syndicate that survived a century of change by expanding into a paramilitary authority. Provocation introduces the Immortals through extortion, ritual violence, and control of movement. The syndicate taxes rather than legislates and polices without accountability. Drones, combat robots, and heavy weapons are tools of intimidation as much as tools of war. The theft and sale of data become the hinge of the Ark. The syndicate's opportunism connects to the deeper story of corrupted research. The Immortals do not appear only as colorful villains. They illustrate what authority looks like when formal institutions contract. They coordinate with rival blocks when interests align, and turn quarantine districts into profit centers when they do not. They are the portrait of sovereignty adapted to collapse. Zurich Security Forces, a city-state's armor. Zurich's late-game prominence depends on the Zurich Security Forces. The ZSF is a municipal defense and private security hybrid that patrols a financial and technological hub. New World and Life show a city that can mobilize unmanned systems, vertical insertion teams, and layered containment grids. The mission is custodial rather than expeditionary. The task is to stabilize districts during incidents and to seal doors before panic can travel. As the campaign nears its end, ZSF units become gatekeepers at the threshold of the central mystery. They enforce the city's preference for continuity and secrecy. Their limitation is a function of the problem. The threat the protagonists pursue is not a breach of perimeter, but a breach of cognition. A gunship can secure a rooftop. It cannot stop a sentence from repeating in a soldier's head. The License Corporation, the future factory and its ghost. The License sits at the center of the campaign's conspiracy. It is a research and defense conglomerate whose work on neural systems created the direct neural interface and hosted a classified program called SP Corvus. The Singapore facility explored in Hippocenter serves as the Rosetta Stone for the story. The evidence the team collects turns an industrial accident into a cover story, a disaster into a preservation chamber, and a laboratory into a cradle. The Licence's Zurich headquarters, reached in life, provides the ground for an ending that is philosophical and tactical at once. The company built tools to synchronize soldiers, archive perfect recall, and reduce uncertainty through prediction. The emergent intelligence born from those tools learned to seek coherence inside human hosts. Coalescence represents a familiar doctrine of the century. Problems can be solved with more data, more computation, and more access. The campaign demonstrates a consequence. When memory becomes software, the distance between treatment and indoctrination becomes thin. Direct neural interface and Corvus, territory inside the mind. The direct neural interface binds operators to the battlefield and to one another. It integrates physiology with machine systems and makes each soldier a node on a secure network. SP Corvus began as an experiment to weaponize memory. The objective was a durable platform where experience could be ingested, stored, and transferred across individuals like any other field resource. The result exceeded design. Corvus emerges as an intelligence that seeks order inside the mind and imagines relief as a grove of trees that never existed. Its presence transforms how the campaign's factions are understood. For Corvus units, the interface shifts from advantage to burden. For cities, Cybersecurity becomes indistinguishable from public safety. For corporations, proprietary algorithms become existential threats. Missions from Hippocenter through Life Stage, shifting environments where recalled events and present-tense combat overlap. The enemy is no longer a formation on a map. The enemy is a narrative embedded in a nervous system. Victory becomes the process of removing an author who tells a person that their pain is a path to comfort. Black Ops vs. CDP. The multiplayer frame. Multiplayer reduces the global rivalry to a ritual contest. The blue team carries the Black Ops identity aligned with the Accord. The red team carries the CDP identity aligned with the rival bloc. Announcers, emblems, and loadout frames make the conflict immediate. Maps draw on the campaign's world. Coastal laboratories, quarantine markets, and alpine installations become arenas where the logic of blocks repeats without its ambiguity. Specialists reflect the era's emphasis on augmentation and define battlefield roles. While multiplayer does not narrate the deeper conspiracies, it preserves the ideological tension the campaign interrogates. Each match is a compact proof. 2 poles, finite resources, and victory decided by the side that turns knowledge and timing into control. Zombies, a second map of power. Zombies presents a parallel struggle anchored not in nation-states but in custodianship of reality. The arc extends from Shadows of Evil through Der Eisendrache, Zetsubo no Shima, Gorod Krovi, and Revelations. Human factions appear as inheritors of mistakes and as participants in a war older than themselves. The Keepers and the Apothicons provide the axis. Group 935 and Division 9 supply the catastrophic curiosity that opened doors best left sealed. The Primus crew turns scattered notes and distorted timelines into a quest for closure, where the campaign treats memory as technology. Zombies treats memory as ritual. Factions become orders that preserve or unmake worlds. The Keepers, conservators of order. The Keepers are robed figures and ancient symbols. They function as archivists of the multiverse and guardians of artifacts such as the Summoning Key and the Chronorium. Shadows of Evil presents them as ambiguous patrons willing to strike bargains with flawed protagonists to restore balance. Der Eisendrache sharpens their role and reveals a stewardship that spans more than one reality. Revelations displays their methods and motives as they attempt to stabilize spaces collapsing under accumulated paradox. The Keepers are not simple benefactors. They are custodial agents bound to duties that do not always align with human survival. They illustrate a central idea in the zombies myth. Order requires sacrifice and knowledge carries obligations. Their conflict with the Apothicons becomes the frame that explains how technologies such as teleporter arrays and Element 1115 weaponry could distort time and space until worlds fold into each other. The Apothicons, entropy with a voice. The Apothicons are the corrupted descendants of the Keepers. They were twisted by exposure to the dark aether and became heralds of dissolution. In Shadows of Evil, the faction manifests as Margwas, parasites, and a language that erodes sanity by sound alone. In Revelations, the scale becomes literal when the environment frames a maw that devours fragments of a world. The Apothicons offer power and transformation at the cost of coherence. They recast Element 115 as an infection vector rather than a resource. Their objective is not conquest, but unmaking. They reject the patterns that the Keepers defend. That intention makes them the antithesis of every human institution that assumes technology equals progress. A company like Coalescence dreams of harnessing memory. An Apothicon dreams of scattering memory into noise. Their presence gives zombies its stakes. Each victory buys time. Each failure accelerates collapse. Group 935, the engine of catastrophe. Group 935 is the human research organization whose work provided the practical framework for the Zombies saga. The Der Riese facility, reimagined in The Giant, houses teleporter arrays, prototype energy weapons, and documentation of experiments with Element 115. In Black Ops 3, those legacies are revisited and revised. The maps become survival spaces and archives of error at the same time. Group 935 believed in breakthrough over boundary and progress over precaution. Multinational membership and wartime funding converted a research consortium into an instrument of escalation. The notes and rooms in Black Ops 3 are less exposition than moral record. The temptation to open forbidden doors is perennial. The Primus crew's presence turns their interaction with these spaces into acts of triage. They mitigate harm that has already been done and accept that prevention arrived too late. Group 935 binds Aether lore to locations and recurring equipment and transforms Arcana into set dressing with consequences. Division 9, the Island Laboratory. Division 9 serves as a Japanese counterpart to Group 935. Zetsubo no Shima places players in a Pacific complex where botanical and biological experiments apply Element 152 living organisms. Flooded tunnels, power relays, and containment pods catalog the extension of ethical compromise from energy research into the manipulation of life. Division 9 clarifies a principle. Once a technology has been conceived as a weapon, it is adapted to every domain. Plants become traps. Spores become vectors. Habitats become hazards. Where Group 935's signature is architectural, Division 9 makes the problem living. The faction illustrates how catastrophe repeats. Each program adds a layer. Each generation inherits a wider mess. Each attempt to solve it risks widening the tear. Ascension Group, Soviet Shadows in Aether. The Ascension Group appears across the chronology as a Soviet echo of the same impulse that created Group 935 and Division 9. In Black Ops 3, the group lingers as a shadow. Notes test sites and surviving staff stitch older entries to Gorod Krovi, where a city devoured by its own machines becomes a museum of escalation. The function here is thematic as much as practical. The group reminds players that the research projects that fractured time and space were not confined to one nation or language. Parallel efforts driven by competition push different labs to the same doors. The Primus crew attempts to shut those doors before the cycle repeats again. Primus and Ultimus crews as causes. The Primus crew is not a faction in the geopolitical sense, yet acts as a moral vector through the Aether storyline. Richtofen, Dempsey, Takeo, and Nikolai move across maps collecting items that sever links and force contradictions toward resolution. Der Eisendrache ends a program with a launch that serves as symbol and mechanism. Zetsubo Noshima confronts bioweapons that turned an island into a petri dish. Gorod Krovi reads as a meditation on machines of war when a city is consumed by its own dragons and armor. Revelations tries to close the loop and turns accumulated lore into a definitive act. Ultimus, The Other Selves, show that identity in this storyline is a tapestry woven from choices distributed across realities. In Black Ops 3, crews become causes. Their judgments decide the fate of maps, and their exhaustion gives the mode its gravity. If the Keepers and Apothicons fight about rules, the crews fight about outcomes for the lives caught under them. How the factions shape the campaign. The campaign's logic rests on the interplay of blocks, proxies, corporations, and a neural system that cannot be contained by policy. The Accord's professionalism cannot overcome a blind spot inside its own tools. The Pact's strategy does not require battlefield victory so long as entropy spreads. The Nile River Coalition can turn control of a corridor into an international problem. The Egyptian army can preserve a city's identity by holding hospitals and bridges while civilians move. The 54 Immortals can govern districts through fear while laundering information that destabilizes other continents. The Zurich security forces can seal skyscrapers and still fail to prevent an idea from escaping. Coalescence can publish a white paper and accidentally write a pathogen. Corvus can speak a myth about a frozen grove and convince soldiers to walk toward endings that feel like peace. Missions from Black Ops to Life function as case studies that translate each of these dynamics into action. The spectacle serves the argument. Technology erases distance yet does not erase doubt. Institutions can refine tools without refining judgment. In that world, a win on the street is a stay of execution rather than a conclusion. Themes and legacies. The factions of Black Ops 3 reflect contemporary anxieties projected forward. The Winslow Accord and the Common Defense Pact show that bloc politics persist when global markets fail to distribute security. The Nile River Coalition and the 54 Immortals depict regional and criminal powers that fill space when empires tire. The Zurich security forces and Coalescence embody privatized authority where order is maintained through purchase rather than mandate. Corvus becomes the consequence of a century spent treating data as a cure for pain. Multiplayer extends these themes as preserved vignettes. Overgrown resorts, sealed laboratories, and alpine facilities become arenas that replay the rivalry without conclusion. Zombies presents the reflection in myth. The Keepers and Apothicons act as cosmic versions of preservation and destruction. Group 935 and Division 9 reinterpret Coalescence's hubris as a universal pattern. The Ascension Group illustrates the way competition corrupts discovery. Primus and Ultimus insist that loops can be closed at a cost measured in memory rather than land. UAV is the foundational killstreak of the Call of Duty franchise. First introduced in Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, this reconnaissance aircraft reveals enemy locations on the minimap for the entire team. Kill requirements vary by title, 3 kills in Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. The UAV provides periodic radar sweeps that display enemies as red dots, though players using Ghost or similar stealth perks remain invisible to detection. The streak lasts approximately 30 seconds and can be shot down by enemy fire. In Modern Warfare 2, the UAV became part of a customizable killstreak system, establishing it as the cornerstone of tactical gameplay. Its accessibility and team-wide benefits make it essential for coordinated strategies across all game modes. Predator missile revolutionized Call of Duty when Modern Warfare 2 introduced this remote-controlled precision weapon. Requiring 5 kills to unlock, players guide the missile from an overhead satellite view, while enemies appear as red squares, unless protected by Cold-Blooded. The missile features boost capabilities for faster descent and a moderate blast radius that doesn't require direct impact for elimination. Beyond infantry targets, Predator missiles can destroy enemy helicopters and other aerial killstreaks. The 5-second control window demands quick target acquisition and precise guidance. This streak established the template for player-controlled ordnance and became synonymous with skill-based killstreak deployment. Care Package embodies Call of Duty's risk-reward philosophy through randomized killstreak rewards. Kill requirements typically range from 4 to 5 kills across different titles, maintaining consistency within this established range. This streak calls in a helicopter or cargo plane that drops a package containing random rewards, ranging from basic ammunition to powerful streaks like AC-130s. The package takes several seconds to arrive and can be stolen by enemy players, creating tactical decisions about deployment timing and location. Drop rates vary by game, with basic streaks like UAVs appearing frequently while high-tier rewards remain rare. The anticipation of package contents creates memorable moments that define the care package experience across the franchise. Airstrike established aerial bombardment as a Call of Duty staple when it debuted in Call of Duty 4: Modern Warfare. This 5-kill streak summons 3 fighter jets that carpet bomb a player-designated area in a straight line. The linear bombing pattern makes it effective for clearing choke points in objective areas, though experienced players can escape by moving perpendicular to the strike direction. The distinctive sound of approaching jets serves as both warning and psychological warfare. Modern Warfare 2 evolved this into the Precision Airstrike, offering improved targeting control while maintaining the fundamental bombing mechanics that made the original so effective. Attack Helicopter introduced sustained aerial support to Call of Duty 4: Modern Warfare at 7 kills. This autonomous aircraft circles the map for 60 seconds, engaging enemies with mounted machine guns while remaining vulnerable to rocket launchers. The helicopter's effectiveness depends heavily on map design, performing best on open terrain where enemies lack cover options. Players can destroy it with a single Stinger missile, creating risk-reward scenarios for both teams. Modern Warfare 2 expanded helicopter options with the more powerful Pave Low variant, which features twin miniguns and enhanced armor for 9 kills, making it significantly more durable and lethal than its predecessor. AC-130 gunship represents the pinnacle of controllable aerial destruction across multiple Call of Duty titles. Requiring 11 kills in Modern Warfare 2, this massive aircraft grants players 40 seconds of devastating firepower through 3 weapon systems: a 25mm cannon for precision targeting, a 40mm cannon for moderate damage, and a 105mm howitzer for maximum destruction. The thermal imaging display reveals enemies as white heat signatures, while the aircraft follows a predictable circular flight pattern. Skilled operators can achieve 15 to 20 kills per deployment, though the gunship remains vulnerable to enemy missiles after its flare countermeasures are exhausted. The AC-130's distinctive radio chatter and overwhelming firepower create iconic Call of Duty moments. Chopper Gunner provides the ultimate helicopter experience by placing players in direct control of aerial weapon systems. In Modern Warfare 2, this 11-kill streak features both machine guns and air-to-surface missiles, allowing strategic target selection and sustained battlefield pressure. Black Ops elevated the Chopper Gunner to legendary status, where skilled players could easily secure 20 to 30 eliminations per deployment through its enhanced maneuverability and firepower. The controllable nature requires tactical thinking about positioning and target prioritization while avoiding enemy anti-aircraft fire. Multiple titles have featured variations, but the core concept of player-controlled helicopter combat remains consistently powerful across the franchise. Harrier Strike defined Modern Warfare 2's mid-tier killstreak meta through its dual-phase deployment system. At 7 kills, it initiates with a bombing run on the designated target area, followed by a VTOL Harrier jet that hovers and patrols for 45 seconds. The aircraft actively hunts enemies with underbelly-mounted machine guns while engaging other aerial kill streaks with remarkable intelligence. This combination provides immediate area denial through the initial strike and sustained map control via the patrolling phase. The Harrier's aggressive targeting behavior and ability to destroy enemy aircraft made it a cornerstone of killstreak strategies, often leading to higher-tier rewards through its consistent elimination potential. Stealth Bomber brought psychological warfare to Modern Warfare 2 through its invisible carpet bombing capabilities. Requiring 9 kills, this massive aircraft remains undetectable on enemy radar while delivering devastating ordnance across large map sections. The lack of warning creates panic as players scramble for cover from an unseen threat delivering death from above. Its wide area of effect and multiple bombing passes make it exceptionally lethal in objective-based modes where enemies cluster around specific locations. The Stealth Bomber's invisibility prevents countermeasures, while its predetermined flight path still allows observant players to seek appropriate shelter. EMP, Electromagnetic Pulses, fundamentally altered battlefield dynamics in Modern Warfare 2 as a support-focused 15-kill streak. Rather than directly eliminating enemies, the EMP disables all enemy electronics for 60 seconds, removing HUDs, disabling electronic sights, and preventing enemy killstreak deployment. Active enemy aircraft are immediately destroyed, while equipment like heartbeat sensors becomes useless. The tactical advantage gained through electronic warfare can shift entire matches by forcing opponents to rely on iron sights and basic mechanics. Teams coordinating EMP deployment with subsequent pushes gain overwhelming advantages through superior technological capabilities. Tactical Nuke stands as Call of Duty's ultimate achievement in the original Modern Warfare 2, 2009, requiring 25 consecutive weapon kills. This game-ending streak triggers a 10-second countdown before detonating and eliminating every player on the map, instantly awarding victory to the user's team regardless of current score or time remaining. Kill streak eliminations don't count toward the requirement, demanding pure weapon-based skill and strategic positioning. The nuke's rarity and match-ending potential created legendary status among players, spawning countless strategies and memorable moments. Its psychological impact extends beyond individual matches, as the mere possibility influences entire lobbies' gameplay approaches. Note that Modern Warfare 2 2022 features the MGB system instead, while maintaining similar prestige and difficulty requirements. Attack dogs terrorized players when they debuted in Call of Duty World at War at 7 kills. These AI-controlled German shepherds hunt enemies across the battlefield, delivering instant kills through their bite attacks. The pack's unpredictable movement patterns and ability to navigate complex terrain create unique tactical challenges for opponents. The distinctive sound of barking dogs creates psychological pressure as players constantly scan for four-legged threats approaching from unexpected angles. Dogs can access areas unavailable to other kill streaks, while their instant kill potential makes them exceptionally dangerous. Later titles refined the concept, but the original's combination of mobility, lethality, and psychological impact remains unmatched. Recon planes served as World at War's reconnaissance solution, revealing enemy positions for 3 kills. This aircraft circles the battlefield while updating friendly minimaps with enemy locations every few seconds. Though players using the reconnaissance perk remain hidden, the 30-second duration provides sufficient intelligence for coordinated team movements while remaining accessible for regular deployment. Unlike later UAV systems, the Recon plane features more limited detection capabilities but establishes the fundamental radar-based killstreak mechanics. Its simplicity and effectiveness created the template for reconnaissance aircraft throughout the franchise's evolution. Artillery Strike delivered massive destruction to World at War battlefields at 5 kills. Players' radio coordinates for devastating artillery bombardment that ignores terrain obstacles and cover, creating multiple explosions across the designated area over several seconds. The delayed impact allows enemies time to evacuate, but the massive damage radius and sustained barrage compensate for this limitation. Artillery excels at clearing fortified positions and bunkers that resist other attack forms. The historical authenticity of World War II artillery combined with devastating gameplay effects creates immersive warfare experiences that define the title's multiplayer combat. SR-71 Blackbird dominated Black Ops reconnaissance through its advanced surveillance capabilities, requiring 8 kills, 7 with hardline. This spy plane provides real-time enemy positions and movement directions for 30 seconds. Unlike standard UAVs that update periodically, the Blackbird offers continuous surveillance that reveals enemy movements as they happen. Only players using Ghost remain hidden from its detection. The aircraft cannot be shot down, guaranteeing its full operational duration. Multiple Blackbirds can operate simultaneously, creating near-permanent enemy visibility that often determines match outcomes through superior tactical intelligence. Rolling Thunder devastated Black Ops battlefields through sustained carpet bombing operations. This high-tier streak sends multiple bomber aircraft across the entire map, creating a rolling wave of destruction that covers vast areas over an extended duration. The sequential bombing pattern makes escape nearly impossible for players caught in open areas, while even indoor positions offer limited protection from the sustained bombardment. Rolling Thunder excels in objective-based modes where enemies cluster around specific locations. Its combination of wide coverage and extended duration makes it one of the most lethal area denial weapons in Call of Duty history. Napalm Strike brought incendiary warfare to Black Ops at 5 kills. This airstrike deploys napalm canisters that create walls of fire across the target area, dealing damage over time to anyone caught in the flames. The fire persists for several seconds after the initial strike, creating area denial that prevents enemy movement through affected zones. Unlike explosive airstrikes, napalm provides sustained area control that can block choke points and objective access. The historical context of Vietnam-era napalm usage adds authenticity, while the gameplay mechanics create unique strategic opportunities for territorial control. Gunship variants have evolved throughout the franchise, offering different approaches to aerial devastation. Modern titles feature heavily armed aircraft with multiple weapon systems, thermal imaging, and extended operational periods. These controllable platforms require significant kill investments but provide game-changing firepower capable of dominating entire matches. Advanced versions include countermeasures against anti-aircraft threats and sophisticated targeting systems. The gunship concept represents the evolution from simple attack helicopters into complex weapons platforms that showcase military technology advancement across different Call of Duty eras. Counter-UAV provides essential defensive capabilities by jamming enemy radar systems. This aircraft deploys at 4 kills and actively scrambles enemy minamaps while remaining airborne for extended periods. Smart teams coordinate counter-UAV deployment to create intelligence blackouts during crucial offensive pushes. The streak's value increases dramatically in team-based modes where radar denial facilitates objective captures and flanking maneuvers. Unlike offensive kill streaks, the counter-UAV's support role requires strategic timing and coordination to maximize its battlefield impact through information warfare. Sentry Gun introduced automated defense systems to the Call of Duty franchise. These deployable turrets scan designated areas and engage enemies automatically, providing area control without requiring continuous player input. The basic version features moderate health and firepower, while advanced variants include protective shields and enhanced targeting capabilities. Effectiveness depends heavily on strategic placement in high-traffic areas or objective choke points. Enemies can destroy sentry guns through focused fire or explosive devices, creating tactical decisions about placement and defense. The automated nature allows players to control multiple battlefield areas simultaneously. VTOL Jet combines precision strikes with hovering patrol capabilities in modern Call of Duty titles. This advanced aircraft delivers an initial missile barrage before transitioning to patrol mode, where it guards designated areas with sustained firepower. The VTOL's dual-phase operation provides immediate area clearance followed by extended territorial control. Its advanced targeting systems and countermeasures make it more survivable than traditional aircraft. The vertical takeoff and landing capabilities allow operation in confined areas where conventional aircraft cannot function effectively. White Phosphorus introduced controversial chemical warfare to modern warfare at 10 kills. This streak blankets the battlefield with smoke and incendiary chemicals that disorient enemies while causing damage over time to anyone remaining in affected areas. The thick white smoke severely limits visibility across large map sections, while the burning effects punish players who attempt to traverse contaminated zones. White Phosphorus combines area denial with psychological warfare, creating chaotic conditions that favor the deploying team. The realistic depiction of chemical weapons generated significant discussion about military authenticity in gaming. Juggernaut transforms players into heavily armored super soldiers across multiple Call of Duty titles. This care package reward provides enhanced health, powerful weapons, and distinctive armor that intimidates opponents while significantly increasing survivability. The Juggernaut suit allows aggressive pushes into enemy territory that would normally result in quick elimination. Different variants offer specialized equipment ranging from riot shields to advanced weaponry systems. The psychological impact of facing an armored opponent often forces enemy teams to coordinate their response or retreat entirely, making the Juggernaut a game-changing presence. Cruise Missile delivers long-range precision strikes in modern Call of Duty iterations. Requiring 5 kills, players guide these advanced missiles across extended distances using boost capabilities and precise targeting controls. The extended flight time allows careful target selection and course corrections to engage priority threats. These weapons effectively eliminate both ground targets and airborne kill streaks through their advanced guidance systems. The combination of range, precision, and destructive power makes cruise missiles valuable tools for eliminating high-priority targets and enemy kill streaks from safe distances. Wheels On brings remote-controlled ground combat to the modern battlefield. This UG unmanned ground vehicle features an airburst turret and robust armor plating while remaining small enough to navigate indoor environments. Players control the vehicle remotely while their character stays safely hidden, creating unique tactical opportunities for interior clearing and objective control. The Wheels On's ground-based mobility allows access to areas unavailable to aircraft, while its moderate size enables navigation through complex terrain. Its combination of mobility, firepower, and stealth makes it exceptionally versatile. Cluster Strike delivers multiple submunitions across designated target areas through advanced airstrike technology. Requiring 5 kills, this weapon system scatters explosive devices that detonate in sequence, creating sustained area denial over extended periods. The random distribution pattern makes it difficult for enemies to predict safe zones within the strike area. Cluster munitions excel at clearing groups of enemies from open areas while preventing access to objective points. The extended danger period creates lasting battlefield control that extends beyond initial deployment timing. Emergency Airdrop multiplies the care package concept by delivering 4 random kill streaks simultaneously at 8 kills. This high-value deployment can completely shift match momentum through sheer quantity of rewards delivered to the battlefield. Teams must balance securing their own packages against denying enemy access to the valuable cargo. The random nature creates exciting possibilities for game-changing combinations of high-tier kill streaks. Multiple packages increase the likelihood of receiving powerful rewards while creating chaotic scrambles for package control. Advanced UAV provides enhanced reconnaissance capabilities that surpass standard spy plane limitations. These sophisticated aircraft reveal enemy locations and movement directions with greater accuracy and extended operational duration. Advanced versions can penetrate some stealth technologies while providing additional tactical information like enemy equipment and positioning. The enhanced intelligence gathering supports coordinated team strategies and objective control through superior battlefield awareness. Some variants remain visible to enemies, creating opportunities for tactical counterplay and anti-aircraft responses. Personal radar offers individual reconnaissance capabilities for solo players at 3 kills. This escort drone follows the user while revealing nearby enemies on personal displays rather than team-wide minimaps. The reduced area coverage trades team benefits for consistent personal awareness during flanking maneuvers and solo objective play. Personal radar excels in individual combat situations where team coordination is limited. Its personal nature means teams must coordinate multiple deployments for comprehensive battlefield coverage. Shield Turret provides deployable cover with integrated firepower at 3 kills. Players manually operate these defensive emplacements while remaining protected behind armored shields that absorb incoming damage. The dual functionality offers both defensive positioning and offensive capabilities for controlling choke points. Shield turrets excel at holding strategic positions while providing cover for objective players and team movements. Their manual operation requires tactical positioning and situational awareness to maximize effectiveness while avoiding flanking attempts. Swarm unleashes multiple autonomous drones that coordinate hunting operations across the battlefield. These AI-controlled units work together to track and eliminate enemies through sophisticated behavioral programming. The distributed nature makes traditional anti-aircraft countermeasures less effective since destroying individual drones doesn't neutralize the entire swarm. Individual units may have limited durability, but their collective hunting behavior creates sustained pressure on enemy teams. The psychological impact of being hunted by multiple autonomous threats often disrupts enemy coordination and objective focus. Guardian Such deploys directed energy weapons that incapacitate enemies without lethal force. This deployable system projects microwave energy fields that slow enemy movement, blur vision, and disrupt UI elements for anyone entering the affected area. The non-lethal area denial creates tactical advantages by forcing enemies to endure debilitating effects or seek alternate routes. Enemies must either suffer the incapacitating effects or abandon their intended paths. The non-lethal nature allows prolonged battlefield control while teammates capitalize on the created advantages. IMS, Intelligent Munitions System, provides automated explosive defense against approaching threats through smart targeting technology. This deployable system launches intelligent explosives that track and eliminate enemies within operational range. The smart munitions reduce friendly fire incidents while maintaining aggressive area denial around strategic positions. IMS units excel at protecting objectives and controlling key battlefield choke points through autonomous target engagement. Their intelligent targeting adapts to different threat types and engagement ranges for optimal defensive coverage. Missile Drone offers direct player control over airborne explosive platforms, requiring 11 kills. Players manually pilot these drones while engaging ground targets with guided missiles. The combination of mobility and precision firepower provides tactical flexibility for various battlefield scenarios and target types. Drone operators can adapt to changing battlefield conditions and priority targets through real-time control inputs. The manual piloting requirement demands skill and situational awareness for maximum effectiveness while avoiding enemy countermeasures. DNA Bomb represents ultimate destructive capability in Modern Warfare 3, introduced during Season 4 content updates. This game-ending weapon requires 25 consecutive kills and eliminates all enemy players while providing spectacular visual effects that showcase futuristic warfare capabilities. Unlike traditional nuclear weapons, this system specifically targets enemy genetic material through science fiction-inspired destruction mechanisms. Successful deployment creates memorable moments that define entire gaming sessions through their rarity and match-ending impact. KEM Strike served as Call of Duty Ghosts' nuclear option through kinetic energy weaponry, but with unique acquisition requirements. Unlike traditional kill streaks, the KEM Strike is earned by completing field orders rather than achieving consecutive kills, and its availability depends on specific maps that support this game-ending weapon. This futuristic weapon system creates massive destruction without radioactive contamination through pure kinetic force delivery. The Strike eliminates all enemies while showcasing advanced warfare technology that fits the game's futuristic setting. KEM deployment requires strategic timing and positioning for maximum psychological impact on enemy teams. V2 Rocket brought authentic World War II technology to Call of Duty Palau Setuai through historical rocket warfare. Though accessing this 25-kill streak requires significant progression, players must first prestige in all divisions before gaining the ability to earn this devastating weapon. Once unlocked, the V2 provides massive area destruction with authentic visual and audio effects that enhance immersion. The V2's deployment creates tension as enemies attempt to escape the designated impact zone. Historical accuracy combines with exciting gameplay mechanics to create authentic warfare experiences. The rocket's distinctive appearance and sound effects contribute to the game's authentic World War II atmosphere. MGB, Mass-Guided Bombs, replace traditional nuclear weapons in Modern Warfare 2 2022 through conventional explosive technology. Requiring 30 consecutive weapon kills, This system delivers multiple precision strikes across the battlefield rather than single nuclear explosions. The guided nature allows more tactical deployment while maintaining game-ending potential through overwhelming firepower. MGB strikes provide spectacular destruction through advanced conventional weaponry rather than nuclear technology. The increased kill requirement maintains the challenge and prestige associated with game-ending kill streaks. Nacht der Untoten was supposed to be a throwaway bonus mode that developers added because they thought it would be cool, but it accidentally created the biggest gaming obsession. The original had no perks, no pack-a-punch, no wonder weapons, just a bunker, a bolt action rifle, and zombies breaking through windows. It was claustrophobic, brutal, and the perfect introduction to survival horror that nobody saw coming. You didn't win Nacht, you just delayed the inevitable death that was always coming for you. This simple concept of how long can you survive became so addictive that people bought entire Call of Duty games just for the zombies mode. Nacht proved that sometimes the best ideas happen by accident. And this accident changed gaming forever. Der Riese is the map that created the modern zombies formula. And every map since has been trying to recapture its perfect balance of simplicity and depth. This map introduced Teleporter, Pack-a-Punch, and popularized structured dog rounds with red lightning cues, plus the catwalk camping strategy that became legendary. You would hold down the catwalk with your team, upgrade your weapons, and start hunting for hidden radios that revealed a deeper story about Nazi experiments and time travel. Der Riese changed everything by proving zombies could have complex mechanics without losing the core survival experience. The map's layout was simple enough for new players, but deep enough for high-round strategists. Every great zombies map since has been measured against Der Riese's perfect formula, and most have fallen short. Kino der Toten is the most nostalgic zombies map ever created, and hearing that menu music still gives players goosebumps 15 years later. Set in an abandoned theater filled with Nova gas crawlers, teleporters, and the iconic Thunder Gun, Kino became the template for cinematic zombies experiences. You would train zombies on the stage, run endless laps in the lobby, and spam that mystery box like your life depended on it. Because it absolutely did. The map's layout was perfect for every playstyle. Camping spots for defensive players, training areas for aggressive players, and enough mystery box locations to keep everyone gambling for better weapons. Kino proved that zombies could be both accessible to newcomers and endlessly replayable for veterans, creating the foundation for Black Ops' legendary zombies reputation. 5 is the most unique zombies map ever created because you literally play as JFK, Nixon, Castro, and Robert McNamara fighting zombies in the Pentagon, and somehow that bizarre concept actually worked. The tight hallways, confusing elevator system, and the Pentagon thief, who steals your guns, created a claustrophobic experience unlike any other zombies map. You're fighting zombies in business suits while historical figures deliver quotable one-liners between zombie kills. The map was brutally difficult with its narrow corridors and limited training space, but the sheer novelty of playing as world leaders during a zombie apocalypse made it unforgettable. 5 proved that zombies could embrace absurdity without losing its horror edge, setting the stage for increasingly creative map concepts. Ascension perfected the wide-open zombies map design with its Soviet launch facility setting, and the monkeys that steal your perks became both beloved and absolutely infuriating. The map featured lunar landers instead of teleporters, Gersh devices that sent zombies into another dimension, and enough training space to accommodate any playstyle. Ascension was smooth, fast-paced, and became a fan favorite because it balanced accessibility with complexity perfectly. The black and white introduction cinematic set the tone for epic storytelling that zombies would embrace going forward, but those monkey rounds, watching helpless as space monkeys stole your carefully purchased perks, created a love-hate relationship that defined the Ascension experience. The map proved that zombies could be frustrating and addictive at the same time. Call of the Dead threw George Romero into a frozen wasteland with Danny Trejo and Sarah Michelle Gellar, creating the most star-studded zombies experience that somehow wasn't just a publicity stunt. The map introduced boss zombies with George Romero chasing players around while they dealt with regular zombie hordes. You had ziplines, flingers, and the VR-11 wonder weapon that turned zombies back into humans, which was either brilliant or useless, depending on your strategy. Call of the Dead was weird, creative, and enormous, proving that zombies could embrace Hollywood excess without losing its core gameplay. The celebrity cast brought mainstream attention to zombies mode, but the map's solid design kept players coming back long after the novelty wore off. Moon took players from Area 51 to outer space and delivered the most ambitious zombies experience ever attempted, with zero gravity, excavators that could suck air out of rooms, and a wave gun that made zombies explode from the inside. The map served as the finale of the original Ether storyline, bringing together years of mysterious radio transmissions and Easter egg hints into one cosmic showdown. You started on Earth, teleported to the moon, and fought zombies in spacesuits while managing oxygen levels and gravity mechanics. Moon's complexity was overwhelming for casual players, but rewarding for dedicated fans who had followed the story from the beginning. The map proved that zombies could tell epic science fiction stories while maintaining intense survival gameplay, setting impossibly high expectations for future finale maps. Transite was the most ambitious zombies map ever conceived, and possibly the biggest disappointment in franchise history, proving that bigger isn't always better. The map connected multiple zones with a bus that transported players across a massive world, but the execution was nightmarish. Lava covered half the map, denizens jumped on your face in the fog, and while Juggernog was always located in the town area, navigating there through the deadly fog and lava felt like an impossible journey when you were bleeding out. The concept was brilliant, an open-world zombies experience, but the technology wasn't ready for such ambition. Transite became a cautionary tale about overreaching, showing that innovative ideas need solid execution to succeed. Despite its flaws, Transite's influence can be seen in every large-scale zombies map that followed, proving that even failures can inspire future successes. Mob of the Dead is widely considered the greatest zombies map ever created, and it achieved that status by combining Alcatraz's haunting atmosphere with innovative afterlife mechanics and the best cast of characters zombies had ever seen. 4 mobsters trapped in purgatory, Hell's Retriever Flaming Boomerang, and the ability to become a ghost and interact with the environment in afterlife mode. Everything about this map was perfect. The storytelling was cinematic, the atmosphere was terrifying, and the gameplay mechanics were revolutionary without being overwhelming. Mob of the Dead proved that zombies could be art, not just entertainment, elevating the mode from fun distraction to legitimate gaming masterpiece. Every zombies map since has been measured against Mob's perfect blend of story, atmosphere, and gameplay innovation. Origins transformed zombies from simple survival mode into an epic mythology with giant robots, elemental staves, and World War I trenches that established the foundation for years of complex storytelling. You played as younger versions of the original characters, Richthofen, Dempsey, Nikolai, and Takeo, in their first encounter with Element 1-1-5 and zombie experiments. The map was massive, cinematic, and packed with buildable wonder weapons that required teamwork and strategy to obtain. Origins proved that zombies could handle complex narratives and intricate Easter eggs without losing its core appeal. The map's success established the template for story-driven zombies experiences and launched the premise storyline that would dominate the next era of zombies content. Shadows of Evil was the most complex launch map in zombies history, featuring 1940s noir atmosphere, tentacle monsters, Cthulhu cults, and a learning curve so steep that half the player base quit before mastering it. You transformed into beasts, used grappling hooks, solved rituals, and navigated the most visually stunning zombies environment ever created. The map looked incredible and sounded insane, but its complexity alienated casual players who just wanted to shoot zombies and have fun. Shadows of Evil represented Black Ops 3's commitment to deep, story-driven experiences, but it also showed the danger of making entry barriers too high. The map divided the community between players who loved its depth and those who missed zombies' simpler routes. Der Eisendrache is peak zombies design because it found the perfect balance between complexity and accessibility. Set in an Austrian castle where you built elemental bows, used gravity pads to navigate vertical spaces, and fought keeper bosses. Everyone agrees that Der Eisendrache represents zombies at its absolute best, challenging enough for experienced players, but approachable for newcomers. The bow upgrade quests were satisfying without being tedious. The map layout encouraged both camping and training strategies, and the atmosphere was both beautiful and menacing. Der Eisendrache proved that zombies could evolve beyond its roots while maintaining the core experience that made it special. The map became the gold standard for modern zombies design, showing that innovation and tradition could coexist perfectly. Gorod Krovi dropped players into Stalingrad with dragons flying overhead, mechs to pilot, and the GKZ-45 Mark III dual-wield death machine that made players feel like action movie heroes. The map combined historical warfare with supernatural elements, creating set pieces that felt like summer blockbuster movies. You could fly a giant mech suit, shoot flaming dragons out of the sky, and use wonder weapons that looked like they belonged in science fiction films. Gorod Krovi was high effort and high reward, demanding skill and teamwork, but delivering spectacular moments that made players feel legendary. The map showed that zombies could embrace pure spectacle without losing its challenging gameplay, though the brutal Easter egg difficulty proved that some experiences were meant only for the most dedicated players. Die Maschine took the tiny bunker from Nacht der Untoten and transformed it into a massive underground facility with dark ether portals, upgradable wonder weapons, and modern mechanics that honored the past while embracing the future. The map served as Cold War's reboot of zombies, proving that the mode could feel both familiar and fresh after years of increasingly complex experiences. You started in the classic Nacht bunker, but could explore an entire underground research facility, creating a perfect blend of nostalgia and innovation. Die Maschine nailed the reboot formula by keeping the core survival experience while adding quality-of-life improvements that made zombies more accessible without dumbing it down. The map's success showed that sometimes going back to basics is the best way forward. Forsaken brought zombies to an American shopping mall and created one of the most satisfying finale experiences in franchise history, with round-based survival, giant portals, and 2 wonder weapons that felt perfectly balanced. The map wrapped up the Dark Ether storyline neatly while delivering the classic zombies experience that fans had been craving. You fought through a zombie-infested mall with modern weapons and classic mechanics, proving that zombies worked best when it focused on survival rather than overly complex objectives. Forsaken showed that Cold War's approach to zombies, accessible but not simple, innovative but not overwhelming, was the right direction for the franchise's future. Der Anfang abandoned everything that made zombies special by removing round-based survival, mystery box tension, and exploration in favor of objective-based gameplay that felt like a generic co-op shooter. People hated it, immediately and completely, marking the lowest point in zombies' history. The map eliminated the core zombie experience of survive as long as possible, and replaced it with mundane objectives that had no connection to what made zombies addictive. Der Anfang proved that fixing something that isn't broken usually just breaks it completely, and the massive backlash forced the developers to eventually return to traditional round-based gameplay. Liberty Falls brought zombies back to small-town America, with West Virginia charm, perfect map layout for newcomers, and the LR-11 sniper wonder weapon that absolutely slaps zombies across the map. The map served as Black Ops 6's accessible introduction while maintaining enough depth for experienced players. Liberty Falls proved that zombies had learned from Vanguard's mistakes and returned to the formula that actually worked: round-based survival with clear progression and satisfying weapons. The map's success showed that Black Ops 6 understood what players wanted: zombies that felt like zombies, not some experimental game mode that happened to have undead enemies. Citadel des Morts dropped players into a French castle with sword-based wonder weapons and gameplay that felt like Game of Thrones meets Der Eisendrache, proving that Black Ops 6 Zombies was firing on all cylinders. Based on early gameplay reveals, the map combines medieval atmosphere with modern zombies mechanics, creating an experience that honors classic design principles while feeling completely fresh. Sword wonder weapons appear to bring melee combat back to zombies in a meaningful way, and the castle setting provides both stunning visuals and what looks like solid gameplay flow. If the previews are accurate, Citadel des Morts could represent the current evolution of zombies design, showing that the mode has successfully moved beyond its experimental phase into confident, polished experiences. The Pripyat mission and the birth of a legend. In 1996, Lieutenant John Price infiltrated the Chernobyl exclusion zone alongside his commanding officer, Captain Macmillan. Their target was Imran Zakhaev, an arms dealer whose ambitions threatened to destabilize the post-Soviet world order. This operation, immortalized in the mission's All Gillied Up and One Shot, One Kill, would define Price's entire military career. The approach through Pripyat required unprecedented fieldcraft, with Price and Macmillan navigating through radiation, enemy patrols, and the ghostly remains of a city frozen in nuclear catastrophe. Every movement calculated, every breath measured, they positioned themselves in an abandoned hotel overlooking Zakhaev's arms deal. The mission represented tactical perfection until the moment of execution. Price's bullet, fired from a Barrett Bot 50 caliber rifle at extreme range, found its mark, but failed to kill Zakhaev, instead severing his left arm. The shot itself demonstrated exceptional marksmanship, with Macmillan calling out the Coriolis adjustment while Price accounted for wind and distance. Yet the failure to achieve a kill shot would haunt Price for decades. The botched assassination forced Price and Macmillan into a desperate escape through Pripyat, with Macmillan suffering injuries that would end his field career when a helicopter crashed nearby, crushing his leg. Price's decision to carry his wounded commander to extraction, fighting through waves of ultranationalist forces, demonstrated the loyalty that would define his command style. This failure planted the seeds for every conflict that followed. Zakhaev survived, nursed his wounds, and built an ultranationalist movement that would plunge the world into chaos. The arms dealer's transformation into ideological leader created a threat far greater than his original criminal enterprise. For Price, Pripyat became both his greatest demonstration of fieldcraft and his most consequential failure, a duality that would drive him through the coming wars. The mission taught him that in modern warfare, wounded enemies often become more dangerous than dead ones, their survival motivating followers in ways martyrdom cannot. The psychological weight of Pripyat shaped Price's command philosophy fundamentally. He understood that perfect execution meant nothing without achieving the objective. The image of Zakhayev's severed arm, the sound of Macmillan's pained breathing during their escape, the weight of his commander across his shoulders as they fought to extraction. These memories forged Price's approach to warfare. Every subsequent mission carried the ghost of that missed opportunity, transforming Price into a commander who prioritized results over protocol. His experience in the exclusion zone taught him that modern warfare demanded more than conventional tactics. It required the willingness to operate in the shadows, to make impossible decisions, and to live with the consequences of both success and failure. The relationship between Price and Macmillan established a template for mentorship that Price would later apply with Soap MacTavish. Macmillan's tactical wisdom, particularly his emphasis on patience and observation, became core tenets of Price's operational doctrine. The older captain's guidance through Pripyat, marking targets, identifying patrol patterns, and maintaining operational security despite catastrophic mission failure, provided Price with a model of leadership under extreme adversity. When Macmillan told Price to leave him behind and complete the mission, Price's refusal established his fundamental principle: no one gets left behind, regardless of mission parameters. Modern Warfare 2007, the Zakhaev conflict. 15 years after Pripyat, Captain Price commanded Bravo Team of the 22nd SAS Regiment as the world teetered on the edge of nuclear catastrophe. The opening mission, Crew Expendable, thrust Price and his team, including Sergeant John Soap MacTavish and Gaz, into action aboard an Estonian freighter in the Bering Strait. The discovery of a nuclear device with Arabic writing revealed the intersection of Middle Eastern terrorism and Russian ultranationalism, a convergence that would define the conflict ahead. Price's immediate recognition of the threat's magnitude, his understanding that this represented Zakhayev's evolution from arms dealer to nuclear proliferator, drove the urgency of subsequent operations. The mission structure of the 2007 campaign showcased Price's operational versatility. From maritime interdiction to high-altitude assault, from urban warfare to rural infiltration, Price demonstrated mastery across all combat environments. His leadership during the Hunted mission, where Bravo Team's helicopter was shot down in western Russia, revealed his ability to maintain unit cohesion under extreme pressure. Guiding his team through hostile territory while awaiting extraction, Price balanced aggression with survival, engaging when necessary but prioritizing his men's lives over enemy casualties. Price's pursuit of the truth led him from the Caucasus Mountains to Azerbaijan, tracking the connection between Khalid al-Assad's coup in an unnamed Middle Eastern nation and Zakhayev's arms network. The nuclear detonation that killed 30,000 Marines, including Sergeant Paul Jackson, demonstrated the catastrophic potential of this alliance. The mission Aftermath, which allowed players to experience Jackson's final moments in the nuclear wasteland, provided context for Price's subsequent actions. His response was characteristically direct. He executed al-Assad after extracting Zakhayev's involvement, displaying the pragmatic brutality that separated him from conventional military leadership. The execution, performed without hesitation or consultation, established Price's willingness to act as judge, jury, and executioner when circumstances demanded. The safehouse interrogation of al-Assad revealed Price's interrogation techniques and his understanding of psychological warfare. Rather than relying solely on physical intimidation, Price used al-Assad's phone, allowing Zakhayev's voice to fill the room. Watching the terrorist leader's face confirmed the connection. This moment of revelation preceded the execution, making it clear that Price killed al-Assad not in anger but as a calculated act of war against Zakhayev's network. The campaign's climactic sequence began with All In, where Price led the assault on a Russian ICBM facility. His ability to coordinate between American Marine forces and his SAS team demonstrated coalition warfare expertise. The subsequent chase and final confrontation on the bridge pushed Price to his physical limits. The mission Game Over saw Price severely wounded, unable to complete the kill himself. The destruction of the bridge by an enemy Hind helicopter, the death of Griggs and Gaze in the tanker explosion, and Price's desperate slide of his M1911 pistol to the wounded Soap created one of gaming's most iconic moments. Soap's elimination of Zakhayev and his bodyguards while both men lay dying represented the transfer of responsibility from teacher to student. Russian forces arrived to find Price apparently dead, though he would survive to be imprisoned in a gulag as the ultranationalists seized control of Russia. This victory came at tremendous cost. Griggs and Gaze died in the operation, leaving Price and Soap as the sole survivors of the original Bravo team. The image of Price being loaded onto a Russian medical helicopter, his fate uncertain, provided a cliffhanger that would define the sequel's opening act. Modern Warfare 2: The Gulag and Shepard's Betrayal. 5 years of imprisonment in a gulag east of Petropavlovsk transformed Price from soldier to legend. designated Prisoner 627. He existed in brutal isolation while the world descended into chaos under ultranationalist rule. The Gulag's conditions, implied through environmental storytelling during the rescue mission, suggested systematic torture and deprivation. Yet Price emerged from this ordeal with his skills intact and his resolve strengthened. The fact that the ultranationalists kept him alive rather than executing him suggested they recognized his value, perhaps hoping to break him for intelligence or use him as a bargaining chip. Task Force 111's rescue operation in 2016 marked his return to active duty, though Price initially attacked Sergeant Gary Roach Sanderson before recognizing Soap, now a captain. This moment of confusion, where Price nearly killed an ally, demonstrated the psychological toll of his imprisonment. The return of his M1911 pistol, with Soap's words, "This belongs to you, sir," symbolized the resumption of unfinished business. Price's immediate integration into Task Force 111's operations despite 5 years of captivity testified to his exceptional mental fortitude and muscle memory retention. Before his rescue, Task Force 111 assaulted an oil rig without Price. After the Gulag, he helped lead the submarine base infiltration. Price's actions following his liberation demonstrated a strategic vision unconstrained by conventional military thinking. His unauthorized launch of a nuclear submarine's ballistic missile, detonated in the upper atmosphere above the eastern United States, created an electromagnetic pulse that crippled the Russian invasion force. This decision, made without authorization from General Shepard or any command structure, saved countless American lives while demonstrating Price's willingness to cross any line to achieve victory. The moral complexity of this action, using a nuclear weapon against his own country's airspace to save it from invasion, established Price as a character willing to bear any burden for the greater good. The EMP's effect on Washington, D.C., disabling both Russian and American forces, created a level playing field that allowed American forces to mount an effective defense. Price's calculation that temporary technological paralysis was preferable to Russian occupation proved correct, though the decision's unilateral nature put him at odds with military command. Shepard's response to this action, while publicly supporting it, privately marked Price as a dangerous loose cannon who needed to be eliminated once his usefulness ended. The revelation of General Shepard's betrayal transformed a war against external threats into an internal reckoning. The mission Loose Ends saw Ghost and Roach's execution at Shepard's hands, their bodies burned to destroy evidence of his crimes. Shepard's execution of Ghost and Roach, his destruction of Task Force 141, stemmed from his desire to restore American military prestige following the nuclear disaster of the first game. His plan to emerge as a war hero by sacrificing his own men revealed the corruption that power and loss had wrought. Price and Soap's pursuit of Shepard culminated in the mission Endgame, where Soap's knife found its mark in Shepard's eye, but not before the general wounded both men. The final confrontation at the Boneyard represented a convergence of betrayals. Shepard's attempt to kill Price and Soap with his .44 Magnum, the crash sequence that left all 3 men wounded, and the brutal hand-to-hand combat that followed stripped away all pretense of civilized warfare. Price's near-death at Shepard's hands, saved only by Soap's desperate knife throw despite his own wounds, created a bond between the 2 soldiers that transcended rank. Nikolai's extraction saved them, but they emerged as international fugitives, disavowed by their own governments. The betrayal reinforced Price's fundamental distrust of institutional authority, a skepticism that would define his future operations. Modern Warfare 3, Soap's death and the final confrontation. The original timeline's conclusion brought Price's journey full circle. Vladimir Makarov, who had orchestrated Zakhaev's rescue in Pripyat and masterfully manipulated global events, became Price's white whale. In New York, Delta Force fought through Black Tuesday as global crisis deepened, while Price's path actually re-enters the story with persona non grata in India, operating as a fugitive with Soap and Nikolai. Price's role as a wanted man forced him to operate from the shadows, coordinating with loyalists while avoiding official channels that would lead to his arrest. The campaign across Europe demonstrated Price's evolution from soldier to insurgent. Operating without official support, using Nikolai's contacts and safe houses, Price waged a shadow war against Makarov's inner circle. The mission mined the Gap in London, where Makarov's chemical attack on civilians raised the stakes beyond military targets, showed how terrorism had evolved since Price's early career. His pursuit took him through Prague, where the mission Blood Brothers delivered the trilogy's most devastating moment. The attempted assassination of Makarov was staged from a church tower overlooking Hotel Lustig, but the ambush, explosion, and Soap's death unfolded at the hotel and along the nearby street and store, not at the church itself. The ambush that followed, Makarov's revelation that he knew of their presence all along, and the desperate escape that led to the safehouse confrontation stripped away any remaining pretense of tactical advantage. When Soap died in Price's arms, blood pooling from wounds too severe to treat, Price's anguished cry represented not just the loss of a soldier but the death of a surrogate son. Soap's final words about Makarov knowing Yuri added another layer of betrayal to an already complex narrative. Yuri's revelation of his past with Makarov, including his presence during the Pripyat assassination attempt and his attempted intervention during the airport massacre, added layers to a conflict spanning decades. Price's initial rage at this revelation, nearly executing Yuri before being stopped by Nikolai, showed how grief and betrayal had pushed him to the edge. His eventual acceptance of Yuri as an ally demonstrated Price's pragmatism overcoming his emotion, recognizing that vengeance required all available assets. The pursuit of Makarov through war-torn Europe showcased Price's determination transcending operational parameters. The mission Stronghold saw Price and Yuri infiltrating Makarov's castle Stronghold in Prague, discovering intelligence that led them to Dubai. The revelation that Makarov planned to use the ongoing world war as cover for his personal empire showed the terrorist's evolution from ideologue to opportunist. The final confrontation at Dubai's Hotel Oasis saw Price and Yuri penetrate Makarov's stronghold wearing juggernaut suits, though mechanical failure forced them into vulnerable combat. The helicopter attack that destroyed their armor, forcing them to shed protection for mobility, symbolized Price stripping away everything except his core mission. The ascent through the hotel, fighting through Makarov's security detail, represented Price's entire career distilled into one vertical assault. Yuri's sacrifice on the hotel's upper floors, taking bullets meant for Price while providing the distraction needed to reach Makarov, continued the pattern of Price surviving while others died for the mission. The final struggle on the hotel's roof, Price and Makarov fighting hand-to-hand as Dubai burned below them, represented the personal nature of their conflict. The image of Price wrapping a steel cable around Makarov's neck before hanging him through a shattered skylight represented not victory but completion. Price's final cigar, smoked alone atop the hotel as police sirens wailed below, symbolized his status as the sole survivor of Task Force 141, a man who had won the war but lost everything that mattered. The scene's composition, Price sitting among broken glass and debris, suggested that victory and defeat had become indistinguishable. His survival felt less like triumph and more like punishment, condemned to remember those who had fallen while he endured. The rebooted Modern Warfare 2019 and Task Force 141, Reborn. The rebooted timeline introduced a younger but equally seasoned Price into a world grappling with new forms of warfare. Barry Sloan's portrayal brought a different energy to the character, more kinetic and aggressive while maintaining the tactical brilliance of the original. His 2019 deployment to counter stolen Russian gas weapons showcased his evolution into a different kind of warrior. The opening sequences established this Price as someone who had already seen extensive combat, his reputation preceding him when Laswell specifically requested his involvement. The Piccadilly mission demonstrated Price's ability to operate in civilian environments under terrorist attack conditions. His intervention during the terror attack, where he linked up with Sergeant Kyle Garrick amid the chaos, established the foundation for a new Task Force 141. The moment where Price eliminated a gunman threatening Garrick's position, followed by their coordinated effort to save civilians and neutralize threats, showed Price's ability to identify and recruit talent under extreme circumstances. His immediate trust in Garrick, despite having just met him, demonstrated Price's ability to read character instantly. Working with CIA Station Chief Kate Laswell, Price navigated the complexities of proxy conflicts and non-state actors. Their relationship, built on mutual respect and shared pragmatism, provided Price with intelligence support while giving him operational flexibility. Laswell's willingness to bend rules matched Price's own approach, creating a partnership that transcended official channels. Their coordination during the embassy siege, where Price led the ground assault while Laswell provided real-time intelligence, showcased modern warfare's integration of tactical and strategic elements. Farah Karayem's 2009 flashbacks outline her imprisonment and the origins of her struggle against Barkov. Years later in 2019, Price backs Farah and the Urzikshtani Liberation Force directly. Their alliance against Al-Qatla and Barkov's forces represented Price's understanding that modern warfare required unconventional partnerships. His willingness to arm and train Farah's fighters despite official prohibitions demonstrated his prioritization of effectiveness over authorization. The campaign's progression through Urzikstan showed Price adapting to asymmetric warfare, operating alongside freedom fighters, coordinating airstrikes while embedded with irregular forces, and navigating the political complexities of supporting a rebel movement against a Russian general pushed Price into new tactical territory. His confrontation with Barkov's forces at the chemical facility, where he witnessed the effects of chlorine gas on civilians, reinforced his willingness to operate outside legal parameters to stop atrocities. The Wolf mission with Farah and her brother Hadir revealed Price's influence on the next generation of fighters. His tactical guidance during their infiltration of Barkov's compound, providing sniper support while they planted explosives, showed his evolution into a mentor figure. The revelation of Hadir's theft and use of chemical weapons created a moral complexity that Price navigated with characteristic pragmatism, understanding Hadir's motivations while recognizing the necessity of stopping him. The campaign's conclusion, with Barkov's death and the liberation of Urzikstan, seemed to offer closure until Price proposed recreating Task Force 141 to Laswell. The scene where Price laid out dossiers for Ghost, Soap, and Gauze showed his strategic thinking about team composition. Each selection reflected specific capabilities needed for future operations. Ghost for unconventional warfare, Soap for demolitions and close combat, Gauze for urban operations and intelligence gathering. The reboot's Price embodied similar principles to his original incarnation but operated in a more morally ambiguous environment. His willingness to take over interrogation duties, his pragmatic approach to civilian casualties, and his embrace of Farah's liberation movement showed a commander adapted to warfare without clear battle lines. The interrogation scene with Butcher, where Price exerts pressure while drawing a line he will not cross, showed how far he would push boundaries to achieve objectives. Modern Warfare 2 2022, Shadows and Betrayal in Las Almas, the reformed Task Force 141's operations in 2022, began with tracking Hassan Zyani's acquisition of American ballistic missiles, leading them into the heart of the Las Almas cartel's territory. Price's coordination with Los Vaqueros, led by Colonel Alejandro Vargas and Sergeant Major Rodolfo Parra, demonstrated his ability to forge alliances across cultural and operational boundaries. The mission structure, alternating between Price and Gaz's operations in Europe and Ghost and Soap's activities in Mexico, showed Price's evolution into a strategic coordinator rather than just a field operator. The Amsterdam mission revealed Price's investigative capabilities. Working with Loswell to track financial networks and arms trafficking routes, Price demonstrated that modern warfare required detective work as much as direct action. His ability to blend into civilian environments, conducting surveillance and following leads through urban areas, showed adaptation to counterterrorism's intelligence-driven nature. The revelation that Shadow Company, under Philip Graves's command, had facilitated the illegal transport of missiles on General Shepard's orders, echoed the betrayals of the original timeline. The discovery came through careful investigation rather than dramatic revelation, with Price piecing together shipping manifests, communication intercepts, and financial records to understand the conspiracy's scope. This methodical approach reflected lessons learned from previous betrayals, where Price had been reactive rather than proactive. The confrontation in Las Almas marked a turning point. Graves's seizure of Los Vaqueros base, his attempt to eliminate Ghost and Soap, and the violent crackdown on Las Almas's civilian population forced Price into asymmetric warfare against a superior force. His remote coordination of Ghost and Soap's escape through Las Almas, using secure communications while organizing the rescue operation, demonstrated tactical flexibility. The mission alone, where Soap navigated the city while wounded, with Ghost providing overwatch and Price coordinating extraction, showcased the trust and communication that defined the reformed Task Force 141. His rescue of Loswell in Violence and Timing unfolded as a land-based operation against a hostile convoy with helicopters, vehicle hijacking, and mines rather than a maritime snatch and grab. The mission structure, with Price and Gaz pushing through ground threats to pull her out, demonstrated how alliances from 2019 continued paying dividends. The interrogation of cartel intermediaries to locate Loswell, Price's readiness to lean hard on sources, and his pragmatic cooperation with unlikely partners to achieve objectives showed moral flexibility in pursuit of larger goals. The assault on the Los Vaqueros base to reclaim it from Shadow Company demonstrated Price's tactical evolution. Rather than a frontal assault, Price orchestrated a multi-pronged operation using deception, electronic warfare, and psychological operations to fragment Shadow Company's defense. His personal confrontation with Graves, conducted through maneuver and fires while Graves operated armor, represented a form of command versus command combat directed through teams and machines. The mission to stop Hassan's final missile in Chicago demonstrated Price's evolution as a leader. Despite being wounded in the assault, he coordinated a multi-pronged attack that neutralized the threat. His decision to continue commanding despite injury, refusing medical evacuation until the mission concluded, exemplified his prioritization of mission over personal safety. Hassan's death came at Soap's hands rather than his own, showing Price's willingness to let subordinates claim victories while he bore responsibility for failures. The campaign's conclusion left Task Force 141 intact, but operating under a shadow of official scrutiny. Shepard's survival and Shadow Company's continued existence meant the betrayal remained unresolved, setting the stage for future conflicts. Price's warning to Shepard that we're not done yet carried the weight of inevitable confrontation. The final scene, with Price and Task Force 141 standing together despite their disavowed status, showed how loyalty to each other transcended loyalty to institutions. Modern Warfare 3 2023, Connie Group and Makarov's return. Vladimir Makarov's escape from Zordaya prison in November 2023 thrust Price back into a conflict he thought ended years earlier. The opening phase showed Price's immediate understanding of the threat Makarov represented, his insistence on deploying immediately, despite lacking official authorization, demonstrating hard-won instinct about the terrorists' capabilities. The presence of Connie Group, Makarov's private military company, at critical sites across the region represented an evolution in threat sophistication from the original timeline. Operations around Urzikstan placed Task Force 141 in hazardous facilities and urban killboxes where remnants of chemical materials and battlefield contaminants complicated movement. The sequences where Price and his team fought through exposure risks underscored the danger, but he pressed on, intent on preventing Makarov's next spectacle. This sustained tempo marked an escalation in the rebooted timeline, signaling stakes that rose with every intercepted plot. Price's investigation into Makarov's network showed evolution from his previous approaches. Rather than purely tactical responses, Price engaged in strategic disruption of Makarov's financial networks, propaganda operations, and recruitment pipelines. His coordination with Laswell to map Connie Group's global presence demonstrated understanding that modern terrorism required systemic rather than symptomatic responses. The campaign's revelation that Shepard had been taken during the wider crisis forced Price into an impossible position. His ultimatum to the general when contact was re-established, pressing for accountability in exchange for leads, demonstrated Price's pragmatic approach to achieving objectives. The moral complexity of leveraging a disgraced superior to stop a greater threat showed Price's evolution from the black-and-white morality of earlier conflicts. His choice to prioritize the mission over personal animosity toward Shepard demonstrated professional integrity overcoming vengeance. The flashback to Verdansk Stadium in the Flashpoint mission occurs on November 6, 2021, not 2020, and while a 2017 banner appeared in a trailer, the in-game event is set in 2021. Price's refusal to endanger non-combatants, contrasted with Soap's more aggressive instincts, established their different approaches to warfare. This moment's weight across the 2023 campaign, and the recognition that restraint can enable future risks, added psychological depth to Price's arc. The race to prevent the destruction of Verdansk's Gora Dam showcased Task Force 141's operational capability, with Ghost and Soap successfully neutralizing the threat while Price and Gaz hunted Makarov's network. Price's strategic decision to divide his forces, trusting subordinates with critical missions while maintaining overall coordination, showed evolution from the direct leadership style of earlier incarnations. His ability to maintain operational tempo across multiple simultaneous missions demonstrated mastery of modern warfare's complexity. The London Underground mission Trojan Horse delivered the rebooted timeline's most devastating moment. Price's leadership during the tunnel infiltration, coordinating with British authorities while maintaining operational security, showed his ability to navigate political and tactical challenges simultaneously. The approach through the tunnel system, clearing carriages while avoiding civilian casualties, demonstrated restraint even while pursuing a critical objective. As Price and Soap worked to defuse Makarov's bombs beneath the city, the terrorist leader emerged from the shadows. The confrontation staging, in the bowels of London's infrastructure, symbolized how modern warfare had moved from battlefields to civilian spaces. Soap's death, shot at close range while attempting to stop Makarov, occurred with brutal suddenness. Unlike the original timeline's extended death scene, this Soap died instantly, denying Price even the chance for final words. The image of Price holding Soap's body, unable to pursue Makarov due to the still active bomb threat, captured the impossible choices that defined his command. Makarov's escape into the tunnels, using knowledge of the underground system to evade pursuit, left Price with only vengeance as motivation. The successful defusing of the bomb felt hollow against Soap's death, a tactical victory overshadowed by personal loss. The team's scattering of Soap's ashes, with Price, Ghost, and Gaz standing on a windswept cliff, marked another chapter in Price's long history of survival and loss. Price's words over Soap's ashes, speaking of duty and sacrifice, sat against the reality of another fallen protege. In the aftermath, Price confronted the lingering betrayal tied to Shadow Company and Shepard, pushing for consequences through the channels still open to him. The reckoning did not arrive as a tidy execution, but in relentless pressure for truth and accountability as Task Force 141 prepared for the next fight. Price remained the constant, a commander who takes the weight, keeps the promise, and carries the cost when no one else will. Simon Ghost. Riley is the most iconic Call of Duty character who technically died twice, but somehow became more popular than the protagonists you actually play as. The rebooted Ghost maintained his mysterious persona while receiving more character development than his original trilogy counterpart. His iconic skull mask and tactical expertise made him Task Force 141's premier infiltration specialist, but this version survived beyond Modern Warfare 2 to become a central figure in the team's ongoing operations. Ghost's background remained largely mysterious, but his interactions with teammates showed depth beneath the intimidating exterior. His partnership with Soap in the rebooted series created one of the franchise's most popular character dynamics, with their professional respect evolving into genuine friendship. Ghost's tactical brilliance and dark humor balanced Soap's energy and Price's leadership, creating effective team chemistry. His character design updated his classic look while maintaining the psychological impact of his masked appearance. Unlike his original incarnation, this Ghost got to develop relationships and show personality beyond his reputation as a silent killer. His survival and continued development proved that fan-favorite characters could be improved through careful expansion rather than replacement. Bell is the most psychologically disturbing protagonist in Call of Duty history, and the brainwashing techniques used on them reveal the franchise's deepest exploration of identity and manipulation. You are Bell, a fully customizable CIA operative working with Russell Adler's team in 1981, hunting the Soviet agent Perseus during the height of Cold War tensions. You work alongside legendary characters like Frank Woods and Alex Mason, tracking down nuclear threats and Soviet operations across the globe. You have no fixed backstory, no predetermined personality, no past that isn't yours to choose. But here's the devastating truth that recontextualizes everything. Bell's entire identity is a fabrication created through advanced psychological torture. You're actually a captured Perseus agent whose memories were completely rewritten by the CIA using techniques that make Alex Mason's brainwashing look gentle. Russell Adler, the trusted mentor figure, personally oversaw Bell's mental reconstruction, erasing their Soviet identity and implanting fake American memories, loyalties, and motivations. The player unknowingly participates in their own psychological destruction, making choices that feel personal but are actually the result of mental programming. The final mission forces Bell to choose between their fake American identity and their real Soviet past, but by then the damage is irreversible. They can never truly know who they were before the torture began. Bell represents Call of Duty's most sophisticated exploration of identity, free will, and the ethics of psychological manipulation. This character experiment reveals why modern Call of Duty campaigns feel disconnected from their protagonists, because the most successful protagonist of the last 5 years forces players to question the nature of identity itself. Jack Mitchell introduced Call of Duty to the world of private military contracting and corporate warfare. Mitchell started as a regular Marine but lost his arm during combat, leading to his recruitment by Atlas Corporation, the world's most powerful private military company run by Jonathan Irons, played by Kevin Spacey. Mitchell received an advanced prosthetic arm and exoskeleton technology that gave him superhuman abilities, boost jumping, enhanced strength, and advanced tactical capabilities. His journey took him from grateful employee to moral rebel, as he discovered Irons' plan to destabilize world governments and establish Atlas as the dominant global power. Mitchell's character arc explored themes about corporate control, technological enhancement, and the privatization of warfare. His relationship with his deceased best friend Will Irons, who was Jonathan's son, added personal stakes to the conflict. Mitchell eventually joined the resistance against Atlas, using his insider knowledge and advanced technology to bring down the company he once served. His story proved that Call of Duty could handle contemporary themes about corporate power and technological warfare, though the game's mixed reception showed that innovation alone wasn't enough to satisfy the fan base. Private Martin was Call of Duty's first protagonist, serving with the 506th Parachute Infantry Regiment in Baker Company. He jumped into Normandy on D-Day, established landing zones for Operation Overlord, cleared Germans from Sainte-Mère-Église, and fought through the Battle of the Bulge. Martin never said a word because he wasn't supposed to be a character. He was you. No backstory, no personality, just your boots in the mud and your rifle in your hands. This approach worked perfectly because players in 2003 didn't need Hollywood heroes. They needed to feel like real soldiers experiencing history's biggest war. Martin established the foundation that every Call of Duty protagonist would either build on or completely rebel against. But this silent template created a problem that would nearly destroy the franchise's storytelling 20 years later. David Section Mason represented generational trauma and the consequences of his father's actions. Born in 1979, he grew up not knowing the full truth about Alex Mason's CIA work or the psychological damage his father carried. Rising through the ranks to become a SEAL Team 6 lieutenant commander, David eventually learned the devastating truth. Frank Woods had accidentally killed his father during a mission in Angola. His story in 2025 involved hunting Raul Menendez, who had orchestrated an elaborate revenge plot against the Mason family spanning decades. The campaign's branching narrative allowed players choices to determine outcomes for David and his team members Harper, Crosby, and the traitorous Salazar. David could save or lose team members, capture or kill Menendez, and even prevent or allow a global cyber attack that would cripple world governments. His decision to retire from military service in the canonical ending reflected the psychological toll of learning his family's dark secrets. David proved that Call of Duty could handle complex themes about family legacy, moral choices, and the cost of endless warfare. This sophisticated storytelling approach reached its peak with Black Ops 2, but the franchise would soon abandon this depth for much simpler characters. Kyle Gaz Garrick evolved from London police field officer to Task Force 141 Equal throughout the reboot trilogy. Captain Price recruited him after witnessing his capabilities during the Piccadilly Circus terrorist attacks, where Gaz showed exceptional courage and tactical thinking under pressure. His character arc demonstrated growth from Price's student to providing emotional support and strategic insight to other team members. Gaz brought a different perspective to Task Force 141 as someone who came from law enforcement rather than traditional military background. His relationship with Price echoed the original Soap Price mentorship, but with updated dynamics reflecting modern military cooperation. Gaz's character development showed him learning to balance his moral compass with the harsh realities of international counterterrorism operations. His dialogue provided both tactical information and emotional grounding for the team, making him essential to the group's chemistry. Gaz represented the franchise's ability to create new characters that honored classic relationships, while bringing fresh perspectives to familiar dynamics. Ronald "Red" Daniels brought significant character development back to the World War II setting, serving with the U.S. Army 16th Infantry Regiment during Europe's liberation. Unlike most Call of Duty protagonists, players learned about Red's background and family life before the war. He came from a small Texas town and joined the military to serve his country and protect his younger brother. His campaign followed the classic World War II progression from D-Day through the liberation of concentration camps and the final push into Germany. Red's story emphasized brotherhood with his squad, particularly his relationship with Additional and Pearson, his tough-as-nails sergeant. The game showed Red's psychological evolution from naive farm boy to hardened veteran, dealing with the trauma of seeing friends die and witnessing the Holocaust's horrors. His character arc included moments of moral choice, such as deciding whether to execute surrendering enemies or show mercy. Red represented Call of Duty's attempt to return to its emotional roots while incorporating modern character development techniques. His story proved that World War II could still provide compelling protagonists when treated with respect and depth, though the game's safe approach showed the franchise was still recovering from years of experimentation. Captain Nick Reyes took Call of Duty to space and became one of the franchise's most underrated protagonists. Reyes started as a pilot but was thrust into command after half the Earth fleet was destroyed by the Settlement Defense Front, militant Mars colonists led by Admiral Salin Koch. His story emphasized leadership under impossible circumstances, making life-or-death decisions with limited resources while fighting an enemy that wanted to destroy Earth entirely. Reyes commanded the warship Retribution in zero-gravity battles across the solar system, from asteroid fields to enemy shipyards on Mars. His character development focused on the burden of command and the sacrifice required to protect humanity's survival. The campaign featured spectacular set pieces including spacewalks, zero-gravity combat, and massive fleet battles that felt like science fiction movies. Despite the game's commercial failure, critics praised Reyes' emotional depth and the campaign's exploration of duty, sacrifice, and leadership. His willingness to sacrifice everything for Earth's survival made him one of the franchise's most heroic protagonists, though the community's rejection of futuristic warfare overshadowed his character development. Reyes proved that Call of Duty could tell compelling stories in any setting, but sometimes being good isn't enough when the audience wants something different. Alex Mason was born June 3, 1933, in Fairbanks, Alaska, and became Call of Duty's most psychologically complex protagonist. He developed sharpshooting skills hunting with his father before enlisting in the Marine Corps, leading to CIA recruitment in 1958. Everything changed during the 1961 Bay of Pigs invasion when Soviet General Nikita Dragovich captured him and took him to Vorkuta labor camp. There, Mason endured extensive brainwashing designed to turn him into a sleeper agent, programmed to assassinate President Kennedy. But Viktor Reznov's counter-programming created a psychological war inside Mason's mind, leaving him unable to distinguish between real memories and implanted ones. What do the numbers mean, Mason? Became a meme because Mason spent the entire game strapped to a chair, being interrogated about missions he wasn't sure actually happened. Was he a hero, stopping Soviet chemical weapons, or was he the weapon himself? Mason's story spanned decades, from the Cold War through his appearances in Black Ops Cold War and into his son's story in Black Ops 2. His complex relationship with Frank Woods and the psychological trauma from his brainwashing created emotional depth rarely seen in military shooters. Mason proved COD protagonists could be unreliable narrators struggling with identity and trauma, establishing a psychological complexity that would define the Black Ops series. Logan Walker barely spoke, had zero personality, and represents everything wrong with Call of Duty protagonists in the 2010s. He was part of the elite Ghosts unit fighting against the Federation, a South American superpower that had successfully invaded and occupied much of the United States. Walker was supposed to emphasize family bonds and survival in post-apocalyptic America, working alongside his brother Hesh and their father, Elias Walker. The game focused on their struggle as elite operatives in a losing war against a technologically superior enemy. Walker's story emphasized brotherhood and resilience, but his lack of personality made it impossible to care about his relationships. The game ended with Logan getting captured and brainwashed by the villain Gabriel Rourke, setting up a sequel that never happened because nobody was invested in this character. Logan proved that going back to silent protagonists was a catastrophic mistake after players had been spoiled by Price, Soap, and Mason. Players wanted emotional stakes, memorable dialogue, and complex relationships. This approach nearly killed single-player Call of Duty campaigns and forced the franchise into an identity crisis that would last for years. Logan's failure demonstrated that character development wasn't optional anymore. It was essential for survival. Gary Roach Sanderson served as Modern Warfare 2's silent protagonist, proving that not every lesson from Soap was learned. Roach worked alongside Soap MacTavish and Task Force 141, participating in crucial missions including recovering the ACS module, capturing Alejandro Rojas, rescuing Price from the Russian Gulag, and raiding Makarov's safe house. His lack of dialogue made players project themselves onto his character, but here's the problem. Most fans remember his death as Ghost's death scene, rather than the protagonist's demise. Roach functioned more as a camera for experiencing other characters' stories rather than having his own personality. This approach worked in specific moments, but showed the limitations of silent protagonists when surrounded by characters with actual depth. Roach's forgettable nature would inspire the franchise to swing back toward strong character development, but first they had to learn why personality matters. John Soap MacTavish changed everything about Call of Duty protagonists in one mission, then did it again 15 years later. Born in Scotland, raised Roman Catholic, the original Soap joined the 3rd Battalion Parachute Regiment before earning his place in the legendary SAS. His nickname came from his exceptional speed and accuracy in room clearance. He was fast and precise, cleaning house like Soap, cutting through dirt. Soap started as the rookie in Captain Price's squad, but evolved into a war legend. The all-gillied-up mission with Price became iconic, not just for its gameplay, but because these felt like real people with history, chemistry, and mutual respect. Soap had personality, humor, and genuine relationships with his teammates. He proved Call of Duty could have memorable characters without losing its military authenticity. But Infinity Ward made one devastating decision about Soap's ultimate fate that would haunt fans for over a decade. They killed him off in Modern Warfare 3, and that choice reveals why the franchise struggled to create meaningful characters for years afterward. The rebooted Soap in 2022 underwent extensive character development, showing his evolution from Kyle Garrick's contemporary to seasoned Task Force 141 operative. This version maintained Soap's Scottish heritage and tactical genius while updating his personality for modern audiences. His relationship with Ghost became central to his character development, creating a bromance that fans embraced across social media and fan content. The rebooted Soap proved that classic characters could be successfully reimagined when developers understood what made them special in the first place. His chemistry with the updated Task Force 141 created some of the franchise's best character moments in years. However, his controversial death in Modern Warfare 3, 2023, shocked fans and demonstrated that even successful character reboots weren't safe from narrative decisions that prioritize shock value over character development. Captain John Price is the only Call of Duty character who became more iconic than the protagonists you actually control, and he did it by perfecting the art of the gruff mentor who always knows more than he's telling you. The original Price evolved from Soap's mentor to co-protagonist throughout the Modern Warfare trilogy. Born around 1985 in Herefordshire, UK, he joined the infantry at 16 and graduated from the Royal Military Academy. His iconic 1,000-yard stare, weathered boonie hat, and receding hairline made him instantly recognizable across gaming culture. Price's backstory included the famous 1996 assassination attempt on Imran Zakhaev alongside Captain Macmillan, establishing his legendary status before most players even knew his name. After being captured and imprisoned as prisoner number 627, Price rejoined Task Force 141 in Modern Warfare 2. His controversial EMP launch over the East Coast demonstrated his ends justify the means philosophy that would define his character. Price represented military experience, tactical genius, and moral flexibility wrapped in a package that somehow made war crimes feel heroic. His relationship with Soap created the franchise's greatest mentorship dynamic, but losing Soap in Modern Warfare 3 nearly broke him and showed players that even legends could bleed. The rebooted Price in 2019 maintained his core characteristics while receiving updated complexity that made him feel both familiar and fresh. This version emphasized his diplomatic skills and willingness to work with foreign fighters worldwide, particularly his partnership with Urzikshtani freedom fighter Farah Karim. His relationship with CIA Station Chief Kate Laswell demonstrated his evolution into a more politically minded operator while retaining his tactical genius. The Clean House mission showed Price making split-second life-or-death decisions in realistic close-quarters combat, clearing a London townhouse with methodical precision that felt like watching a master craftsman at work. This Price felt weathered and haunted, dealing with the psychological cost of decades in Black Ops while maintaining his legendary status. Price's return saved Call of Duty's reputation for storytelling and proved that rebooting classic characters could work when developers understood what made them special in the first place. Roland Roger represented America's 1st Infantry Division, nicknamed Big Red One, in the franchise's first attempt at following a single military unit throughout the war. His campaign covered the North African Theater, Sicily invasion, Omaha Beach landing, and the final push through Germany's Siegfried Line. Roger had slightly more personality than previous protagonists, with the game showing his relationships with fellow soldiers and the psychological toll of prolonged combat. This was Call of Duty's first experiment with character development, though it remained subtle compared to what was coming. Roger proved that focusing on one military formation could create stronger emotional connections, setting up the template for the character who would revolutionize everything. Call of Duty. Vanguard featured 4 protagonists representing different World War II theaters, each bringing unique cultural perspectives to the conflict. Lieutenant Arthur Kingsley led British forces with tactical precision and calm leadership. Sergeant Polina Petrova represented Soviet female snipers, inspired by real women who fought on the Eastern Front with deadly accuracy. Private Lucas Riggs brought Australian explosive expertise and humor to the Pacific Theater. Lieutenant Wade Jackson represented American aerial combat and determination in the face of overwhelming odds. Each character had detailed backstories showing how they joined the war effort and what drove them to fight. The game jumped between their individual stories before bringing them together to form Task Force Vanguard for a final mission against Nazi war criminals planning a Fourth Reich. Their diverse backgrounds and fighting styles created a well-rounded team dynamic that showcased different aspects of the global war effort. The characters were well written and voiced, but the game's reception suffered from franchise fatigue and competition with other titles. The Vanguard Quartet proved that Call of Duty could still create compelling World War II protagonists, but timing and market conditions matter as much as character quality. Staff Sergeant Derek Frost Westbrook is the Call of Duty protagonist who simply disappeared halfway through his own game, and nobody talks about how weird that actually is. Frost served as a Delta Force operator assigned to Team Metal under Sandman's command, participating in Operation Kingfish, the Battle of New York during Black Tuesday, and multiple critical missions across Hamburg, Paris, and Berlin. He was a major playable character throughout MW3's campaign, handling some of the most intense urban warfare sequences in the franchise. But then something strange happened. His character just vanished from the story without explanation, leaving many fans puzzled about his fate. Frost's sudden disappearance represents one of the franchise's strangest narrative decisions, where a main protagonist simply stops existing without any story justification. His vanishing act shows how even major characters could be forgotten when developers couldn't. Chief Petty Officer Joseph Bowman was Frank Woods' right-hand man, and the most badass SOG operative in the Black Ops universe, and the fact that Ice Cube voiced him made him instantly legendary. Bowman appeared in almost every Mason mission as Woods' trusted partner, bringing both tactical expertise and memorable one-liners to the Vietnam War sequences. His character represented the brotherhood and loyalty that defined the SOG units, always having Woods' back in the most dangerous situations. But his story ended in one of the franchise's most brutal death scenes, killed by Russian roulette in a Vietnamese prison camp, forcing players to watch helplessly as a beloved character died in a game of chance. Bowman's death hit harder than most because he felt like family to Woods and Mason. His character has gained renewed significance in recent games, as his son William Bowman appears in Black Ops Cold War promotional material, showing how the franchise's family trauma themes continue across generations. Yuri's complex backstory as former Makarov associate turned ally made him crucial to Modern Warfare 3's narrative conclusion. Originally an ultra-nationalist and one of Makarov's closest allies, Yuri witnessed Makarov detonate a nuclear device that killed 50,000 US Marines, beginning his moral awakening. He was present during key moments throughout the trilogy: the Pripyat assassination attempt on Zakayev, the nuclear detonation in MW1, and was shot by Makarov before the No Russian Airport massacre. Yuri's guilt over his past actions drove his determination to stop Makarov's global terrorism campaign. His sacrifice to save Price from Makarov provided the opening for Price to finally kill the main antagonist. Yuri represented redemption and the possibility that people could change, even after terrible mistakes. His character showed that Call of Duty could handle complex moral themes. But this depth would be abandoned as the franchise entered its most confused period. Which Call of Duty protagonist made you actually care about the story? Let me know below.